In this video, we'll show you what happened in Book 2 of A Game of Thrones compared to Season 2 of the HBO adaptation and what was left out because it was too dark. We'll use vertical footage on the right to remind you of what happened in the TV show, plus the Game of Thrones comic book, so you can see for yourself why the books were actually better. We'll also show you how horrific the Battle of the Blackwater was compared to its show counterpart. In our last 4 videos, we summarized the first 24 comic books of A Clash of Kings, and in this video, we'll cover the last 6. We'll also summarize each chapter of A Clash of Kings, which is book 2 in the series and was pretty much just used for season 2, so stay watching. Chapter 54. Pod is dressing Tyrion for his upcoming dinner in a luxurious velvet tunic of Lannister crimson and hands him his official chain. Tyrion decides to leave it on the nightstand, knowing that his sister dislikes being reminded of his role as the king's hand. He didn't want to worsen their already strained relationship. Varys has caught him while he is making his way across the courtyard. "You had best read this at once." He hands Tyrion a piece of parchment, a report from the north. "Good news or bad?" Tyrion asks. "That is not for me to judge." Tyrion unrolls the document. "Gods be good." "Both of them?" "I fear so, my lord. It is so sad, so grievous sad, and them so young and innocent. Have you told anyone else?" Tyrion asks. "Not as yet, though of course I must." "I'll tell my sister," Tyrion says. That evening, the queen appears looking exceptionally beautiful. She is wearing a dress made of rich green velvet that is accentuating the hue of her eyes. Her flowing golden locks are cascading down her exposed shoulders. Tyrion gives her the letter. "I trust you're pleased," he says. "You wanted the Stark boy dead, I believe." Cersei grimaces in distaste. "It was Jaime who threw him from the window, not me. For love," he said, as if that would please me. "It was a stupid thing to do, and dangerous besides. And when did our sweet brother ever stop to think?" "The boy saw you," Tyrion points out. "He was a child. I could have frightened him into silence. Why must I suffer accusations every time some Stark stubs his toe? This was Greyjoy's work. I had nothing to do with it." Let us hope Lady Catelyn believes that. Her eyes widen. "She wouldn't." "Kill Jaime? Why not? What would you do if Joffrey and Tommen were murdered?" "I still hold Sansa," the queen declares. "We still hold Sansa, and we had best take good care of her." Cersei has prepared a delicious banquet. Tyrion is exceedingly courteous. He offers his sister the choice portions of every dish and made certain he ate only what she did. While he doesn't actually believe Cersei would poison him, he thought it wise to exercise caution. "I've never trusted Littlefinger. For enough coin, he'd go over to Stannis in a heartbeat," Cersei admits. "Stannis Baratheon is too bloody righteous to buy men, nor would he make a comfortable lord for the likes of Peter. This war has made for some queer bedfellows, I agree, but those two? No," Tyrion adds. "If we need men so badly, why did you send away your savages?" Cersei scorns him. "They're fierce warriors, but not soldiers. In formal battle, discipline is more important than courage. They've already done us more good in the Kingswood than they would ever have done us on the city walls." While the swan is being presented, the queen questions Tyrion about Varys. "You put too much trust in that eunuch. He serves me well. The swan is too rich for his taste. Or so he'd have you believe. You think you're the only one he whispers secrets to? He gives each of us just enough to convince us that we'd be helpless without him. He played the same game with me when I first wed Robert. For years I was convinced I had no truer friend at court. But now, he says you mean to take the hound from Joffrey. I need Clegane for more important duties. Nothing is more important than the life of the king," she insists. "The life of the king is not at risk. Joff will have brave Sir Osmond guarding him, and Meryn Trant as well. I need Balon Swan and the Hound to lead sorties, to make certain Stannis gets no toehold on our side of the Blackwater. Joff's only a boy who wants to be a part of this battle, and for once he's showing some sense. He needs to be seen. Men fight more fiercely for a king who shares their peril than one who hides behind his mother's skirts. If you want the boy to be his father's son, let him play the part. Joff wears the finest armor gold can buy, and he'll have a dozen gold cloaks around him at all times. If the city looks to be in the least danger of falling, I'll have him escorted back to the Red Keep at once." "Will the city fall?" Cersei asked nervously. "No, but if it does, pray that we can hold the Red Keep long enough for our Lord Father to march to our relief." "You've lied to me before, Tyrion. I hope you like blackberry tarts. I love all sorts of tarts." "Oh, I've known that for a long while. That worm between your legs does half your thinking." Tyrion savors the last remnants of the crumbs on his fingers, his distaste evident as he glances at his sister's smile. "Yes, and just now my worm is thinking that perhaps it is time I took my leave." "It is not your cock that interests me so much as what you stick it in. I don't depend on the eunuch for everything as you do. I have my own ways of finding out things, especially things that people don't want me to know. I have your little oar. Tell me, have you married this one yet?" He gives her no answer. How did Cersei manage to locate Shae? Did Varys betray him? "Why should you care who I choose to warm my bed?" "A Lannister always pays his debts," she says. "You've been scheming against me since the day you came to King's Landing. You sold Marcilla, stole Tommen, and now you plot to have Joff killed. You want him dead so you can rule through Tommen. This is madness, Cersei. Stannis will be here in days. You need me. For what? Your great prowess in battle? Bronze sellswords will never fight without me," he lies. "Oh, I think they will. It's your gold they love, not your impish wit." "And the oar?" He refuses to say her name. If he can manage to persuade her that Shae holds no significance to him, then maybe. She'll be treated gently enough, so long as no harm comes to my son. If Joff should be killed, however, or if Dommen should fall into the hands of our enemies, your little oar will die more painfully than you can possibly imagine." "Gods be good, Cersei. They're my own blood. What sort of man do you take me for?" "A small and twisted one." Tyrion contemplates his next move. What would his brother Jaime do in this situation? Likely act impulsive and deal with the consequences later. However, Tyrion lacks Jaime's expertise with a sword. While he admires his brother's bold nature, he knows he needs to channel their father's demeanor. He needs to be firm and unwavering like Castle Rock. "You may have already taken care of her," Tyrion remarks. "Would you like to see her?" Cersei strides across the chamber and forcefully swings open the sturdy oak door. "Bring in my brother's oar." Blood droplets are oozing from her split lip, revealing a glimpse of bruises behind her tattered attire. Her wrists are tightly bound with rough rope, rendering her unable to communicate as she is silenced with a gag. "You said she wouldn't be hurt," Tyrion states. "Bruises heal. The girl will live, so long as Joff does." "Keep her then, but keep her safe. Whatever happens to her, happens to Tommen as well, and that includes the beatings and ours. If she thinks me such a monster, I'll play the part for her." Cersei had not expected that. "You would not dare." Tyrion made himself smile, slow and cold. "Dare? I'll do it myself." His sister's hand flashed at his face, but he caught her wrist and bent it back until she cried out. Osfrid moved to her rescue. "One more step and I'll break her arm," the dwarf warned him. The man stopped. "You remember when I said you never hit me again, Cersei?" He shoved her to the floor, turned back to the kettlebacks, and goes to Alea. "Sweetling," he says, "you must be brave. I am sorry they hurt you." "I know you'll free me, my lord." "I will," he promises. Tyrion looks at Cersei hatefully. "I will hurt you for this. I don't know how yet, but give me time. A day will come when you think yourself safe and happy, and suddenly your joy will turn to ashes in your mouth, and you'll know the debt is paid." Get out of my sight," Cersei screams. Tyrion returns to his bedchamber. Shae is reclining comfortably on the plush bed, her legs crossed and her body bare except for the intricate golden chain adorning her chest. The chain is adorned with delicate golden hands, each one clasping onto the next in a continuous loop. "What are you doing here?" Tyrion is surprised. "I wanted some hands on my titties, but these little gold ones are cold," she laughs. He was momentarily at a loss for words. How could he explain to her that another woman had shielded her from harm, risking her own life in the process? "Doesn't me lord want to bed me?" Shay asks. "Your shoulders feel as hard as rocks," she murmurs. "Hurry, I want to feel you inside me." As her legs wrap tightly around his body, he loses his arousal. Sensing his softness, Shay moves down beneath the covers and begins to pleasure him with her mouth. Yet even that fails to stir him. He stops her. "What's wrong?" she asks. Tyrion realizes he is a fool, and Shay only says the things he wants to hear because she is a whore. And Cersei is indeed correct. He lets what is between his legs do too much of his thinking for him. "Just go to sleep, sweetling," he tells her while stroking her hair. So it's funny how in this chapter we learn Cersei never trusted Littlefinger, which means if Tyrion had chosen to get rid of him, Cersei wouldn't have objected. Cersei is always 100% right about not trusting Varys, but Tyrion doesn't listen to her. Also, Tyrion threatening Tommen was so stupid. Even he should have known doing that would tarnish whatever relationship he has with Cersei. Instead, he should have played along and pretended that Cersei did have his oar, and that way Tyrion could feign being hers while secretly plotting against her. Tyrion gained nothing from threatening Tommen. Chapter 56. As Theon races through the forest, the roots beneath his feet seem to reach out and grab at him, causing him to stumble. The branches of the tree scratch at his face, drawing lines of blood across his cheeks. A chilling howl echoed behind him, sending shivers down his spine. When he dared to look back, he saw a pack of enormous wolves with eerie, childlike faces closing in on him. Their mouths dripped with dark, ominous blood. Despite his efforts to run faster, his legs refused to cooperate. Panic set in as he remembered the fate of those who had fallen before him. Just as he tried to scream out a warning, a sudden touch makes him whirl around, shouting in terror. What? What do you want? Why are you in my bedchamber?" Theon cries. "My lord prince," Reek says. "Your sister has come to Winterfell." "Where is she?" Theon mutters. "Lauren took her and her men to the Great Hall to break their fast. Will you see her now?" "Yes." "Wex, hot water." He couldn't bear for Usher to witness him looking untidy and drenched in sweat. The previous evening, he had a vivid dream of preparing the deceased for burial. Their bodies were beginning to stiffen, their fingers partially frozen. In his dream, he meticulously dressed them, struggling to pull up trousers and tie laces, forcing fur-lined boots onto their rigid feet. This was never what I wanted. They gave me no choice. The corpses didn't answer him. Reek, Erzin, and Crom stood outside the door waiting for Theon to join them. Lately, Theon made sure to have guards accompany him wherever he went, even when he needed to use the bathroom. The people of Winterfell were out for his blood. The very night they had returned from Acorn Water, Gelmar the Grim had tumbled down some steps and broken his back. The next day, Aegar turned up with his throat slit ear to ear. Gynar Rednose became so wary that he shunned wine, took to sleeping with the noisiest dog in the kennels to give him warning should anyone try to sneak up on him. All the same, they found the little dog barking wildly around the well and Rednose floating in it, drowned. He could not let the killings go unpunished. Farlan was as likely a suspect as any, so Theon sat in judgment, calling him guilty, and condemned him to death. Even that went sour. As he knelt to the block, the kennelmaster said, "My lord Eddard always did his own killings." Theon had to take the axe himself, or look a weakling. As he swung, the first blow landed between Farlan's shoulders. It took 3 more cuts to hack through all that bone and muscle and sever the head from the body. And afterward, he was sick. "I had no choice," he wanted to scream at the corpse. The Ironborn can't keep secrets. They had to die, and someone had to take the blame for it. He only wished he had killed him cleaner. Ned Stark never needed more than a single blow to take a man's head. The killings stopped after Farlan's death, but even so, his men continued sullen and anxious. They fear no foe in open battle, Black Lauren told him, but it is another thing to dwell among enemies, never knowing if the washerwoman means to kiss you or kill you, or whether the serving boy is filling your cup with ale or bale. We would do well to leave this place. I am the Prince of Winterfell, Theon shouts. This is my seat. No man will drive me from it. No, nor woman either. Theon blames Asha for not sending reinforcements sooner. He suspects she harbors a deep desire for his demise, yearning to seize his position as the rightful heir to their father. Asha is sitting on the throne of the Stark, tearing apart a cabin using her fingers. The hall is filled with the sounds of her companions exchanging tales with Theon's comrades as they enjoy their drink. Their voices were so boisterous that his arrival went unnoticed. Where are the rest? Theon demands of Reek. There were barely 50 men seated at the wooden tables, with the majority being his own companions. This is the whole of the company, my lord prince. The whole? How many men did she bring? 20, by my count. Theon Greyjoy confidently walked over to where his sister was sitting. Why, this the Prince of Winterfell, or is it the Prince of Fools? She exclaims. Envy ill becomes a maid. Envy, Theon? What else would you call it? With 30 men I captured Winterfell in a night. You need 1,000 and a moon's turn to take Deepwood Motte. Well, I'm no great warrior like you, brother. I saw their heads above your gates. Tell me true, which one gave you the fiercest fight? The cripple or the babe? Theon could sense the blood surging in his cheeks. He found no satisfaction in the sight of those severed heads, just as he had not taken pleasure in presenting the decapitated bodies of the innocent children in front of the fortress. Maester Luwin was the only one with the courage to approach the scene. With a stoic expression, the small man requested permission to reattach the boys' heads so they could be laid to rest in the Stark family crypts. Despite needing the heads for the wall, he cremated the headless bodies dressed in their finest clothes. Afterwards, he knelt among the bones and ashes to salvage a piece of melted silver and cracked jet, all that remained of Bran's wolf's head brooch. He kept it as a memento. I treated Bran and Rickon generously, Theon tells Asha. They brought their fate on themselves. As do we all, little brother. How do you expect me to hold Winterfell if you bring me only 20 men? 10, Asha corrects him. The others return with me. Come, let us go somewhere we can speak more privily. Dagmer's lost the fight at Torrhen Square, he blurts out. The old castellan broke his shield wall. Yes, Asha says calmly. What did you expect? This Sir Roderick knows the land intimately, as the Cleftjaws does not, and many of the Northmen were mounted. The Ironborn lack the discipline to stand a charge of armoured horse. Dagmer lives, be grateful for that much. He's leading the survivors back towards the stony shore. The victory has given Leopold Tallheart the courage to come out from behind his walls and join Sir Roderick. And I've heard reports that Lord Manderley has sent 12 barges upriver packed with knights, war horses, and siege engines. The Umbers are gathering beyond the last river as well. I'll have an army at my gates before the moon turns, and you bring me only 10 men? I need not have brought you any. I commanded you. Father commanded me to take Deepwood Motte, she snaps. He said nothing of me having to rescue my little brother. Bugger Deepwood, he says. It's a wooden piss on a hill. Winterfell is the heart of the land, but how am I to hold it without a garrison? You might have thought of that before you took it. Oh, it was cleverly done, I'll grant you. If only you had the good sense to raise the castle and carry the 2 little princelings back to Pike as hostages, you might have won the war in a stroke. You'd like that, wouldn't you? To see my prize reduced to ruins and ashes. Your prize will be the doom of you. Krakens rise from the sea, Theon, or did you forget that during your years amongst the wolves? Our strength is our longships, but Winterfell is hundreds of leagues inland, ringed by woods, hills, and hostile holdfasts and castles, and every man in 1,000 leagues is your enemy now. Make no mistake. You made certain of that when you mounted those heads on your gatehouse. Asha shakes her head. How could you be such a bloody fool? Children, they defied me, he shouts. And it was blood for blood besides. 2 sons of Eddard Stark to pay for Roderick and Meryn. I've laid my brother's ghost to rest. Our brothers, his sister reminded him. Did you bring their ghost from Pike, brother? And here I thought they haunted only father. When has a maid ever understood a man's need for revenge? This Sir Roderick may well feel the same manly need. Did you think of that? You are blood of my blood, Theon, whatever else you may be. For the sake of the mother who bore us both, return to Deepwood Motte with me. Put Winterfell to the torch and fall back while you still can. No, Theon adjusts his crown. I took this castle and I mean to hold it. Then hold it you shall, she says. For the rest of your life, you ought to know that's the ugliest crown I've ever laid eyes on. Did you make it yourself? She left him seething with anger as half of the men she had promised to bring with her returned, riding out through the Hunter's Gate that Bran and Rickon had used to make their escape. He pondered why he had not heeded her advice and accompanied her. Gone, has she? Reek asks. My Lord Prince, if you'll pardon me saying, it's not right for her to abandon you, and 10 men, that won't be near enough. I am well aware of that, Theon answers. Well, might be I could help you, Reek suggests. Give me a horse and bag of coin, and I could find you some good fellows. How many? 100 might be, 200, maybe more. Do as you say, and you'll not find me ungrateful. You can name your own reward. Well, my lord, I haven't had no woman since I was with Lord Ramsay, Reek says. I had my eyes on that parlour, and I hear she's already been had, so 200 men and she's yours, but a man less. You can go back to effing pigs. As Theon gazed upon the weirwood tree, he couldn't help but think of Ned Stark and all that belonged to the Starks family. The wood, the castle, the sword, the gods. This place belonged to them, not to him. He regretted not accompanying Asha. Atop the gatehouse, the heads were perched on iron spikes and patiently waiting. Theon observed them in silence, the miller's boys, who resembled Bran and Rickon in age, size, and appearance, had been gruesomely disfigured by Reek. Their heads, now dipped in tar and stripped of skin, bore a haunting resemblance to the boys they once were. Asha is 100% right. If Theon had just captured the 2 Stark boys and fled back to Pike, they could have had massive leverage over the Starks. Also, this chapter is called Back in A Dance with Dragons, The Ghost of Winterfell, where the Boltons, like Theon, invaders who have taken Winterfell for themselves, are trying to occupy it, suddenly find their men dying mysteriously. And like Theon, the castle knows the Boltons don't belong and the invaders don't feel safe within Winterfell's walls before being betrayed by supposed allies. This might foreshadow what happens to the Boltons in the Winds of Winter. Also, we see Theon's greatest mistake, letting Ramsay go to collect a small army of Boltons. Chapter 57. The haunting melody of the singers is echoing within the walls of the castle, mixed with the sounds of horses and the heavy gates creaking open. In the sept, prayers are offered for mercy from the mother, while on the walls, silent pleas are directed towards the warrior. The teachings of Septa Mordane comes to Sansa's mind, as she had once explained that the warrior and the mother were 2 aspects of the same divine being. Sir Meryn Trant is standing ready with the blood bay for Joffrey to ride into battle. Both boy and horse are adorned in gleaming gold armor and crimson plate, with matching golden lions adorning their helmets. Sansa can't help but feel a sense of emptiness and superficiality in the bright and shining display before her. The imp is sitting astride a fiery red stallion, donning armor that is simple compared to the king's intricate battle attire. Despite this, he appears more like a young boy playing dress-up in oversized clothes. However, the menacing battle axe hanging from his shield is hinting at his true strength. Sir Mandon Moore is riding by his side. Upon catching sight of Sansa, Tyrion steers his horse in her direction. Lady Sansa, he calls from his saddle, surely my sister has asked you to join the other highborn ladies in Maegor's. She has, my lord, but King Joffrey sent for me to see him off. I mean to visit the Sept as well, to pray. I won't ask for whom. I ought to have sent you off with Tommen, now that I think on it. Still, you should be safe enough in Maegor's, so long as... Sansa, Joffrey shouts. "Sansa here!" "His Grace has needs of you," Tyrion observes. "We'll talk again after the battle, if the gods permit." Joffrey beckons her closer. "It will be battle soon, everyone says so. May the gods have mercy on us all. My uncle's the one who will need mercy, but I won't give him any." Joffrey draws his sword. The pommel features a heart-shaped ruby positioned between the jaws of a lion. "My new blade, Heart Eater. It is beautifully wrought, Your Grace. Bless my steel with a kiss." Sansa gently presses her lips against the cold metal, pondering that she would rather kiss numerous blades than Joffrey. "You'll kiss it again when I return, and taste my uncle's blood." "Will you lead your knights into battle?" Sansa asks, hoping. "I would, but my uncle the imp says my uncle Stannis will never cross the river. I'll command the 3 oars though. I'm going to see to the traitors myself." "They say my brother Robb always goes where the fighting is thickest," she says, "though he's older than Your Grace to be sure, a man grown. I'll deal with your brother after I'm done with my traitor uncle. I'll gut him with Heart Eater. You'll see." He turns his horse around and urges it forward towards the gate. Sansa has shifted her gaze towards the Sept. The Sept is filled with more people than Sansa had ever seen before. In the distance, she can hear the echoes of war, the sound of war horns, the creak and thud of catapults launching stones, the crackling of burning pitch, and the rhythmic thrum of scorpions releasing their deadly iron-tipped arrows. Sansa swiftly raises the hood of her cloak to cover her ears as she hastens towards Maegor's Holdfast, where the Queen has assured them of safety. The 2 guards stationed at the entrance are adorned in lion-emblazoned helmets and scarlet capes associated with House Lannister. However, Sansa immediately recognizes that they are merely mercenaries disguising themselves as loyal guards. As they approach the staircase, a 3rd guard lounges lazily on a step, clutching his halberd idly across his lap. A true guard would have been vigilant and upright, not seated. Nevertheless, he stands up straight upon noticing their arrival, promptly opening the door and guiding them inside. The Queen's ballroom has enough seating for 100 guests, including highborn ladies, a few elderly gentlemen, and some young boys. These women are the pillars of their families, wives, daughters, mothers, and sisters, while their men are away battling Lord Stannis, with some never to return. The atmosphere in the room is somber and grim. Sansa, as the betrothed of Joffrey, has the esteemed position of sitting by the Queen's side. As she makes her way up the elevated platform, her eyes catch a man clutching a sword that belonged to her father, Ice, nearly as tall as the man himself. Sansa recognizes Sir Ilyn Payne, his gaunt and scarred-faced, turning towards her as if he could feel her gaze. "What is he doing here?" she inquires. Osfrid, who is in charge of leading the newly formed crimson-cloaked guards for the Queen, answers, "Her Grace expects she'll have need of him before the night's done." The royal steward announces Cersei's arrival. Cersei is dressed in a gown of pristine white linen. The purity of the white fabric gives her an air of innocence and youthfulness. "Be seated," the Queen orders as she gracefully settles into her seat. "You look pale, Sansa," Cersei observes. "Is your red flower still blooming?" "Yes." "How apt. The men will bleed out there, and you in here." The Queen gestures for the initial dish to be brought out. "Why is Sir Ilyn here?" Sansa asks. The Queen casts a quick look towards the silent executioner. "To deal with treason, and to defend us if need be. He was a knight before he was a headsman." She points her spoon towards the end of the hall, where the tall wooden doors have been closed and barred. "When the axes smash down those doors, you may be glad of him. Won't your guards protect us? And who will protect us from my guards?" The Queen casts a subtle glance in Osfrid's direction. "Loyal sellswords are rare as virgin ores. If the battle is lost, my guards will trip on those crimson cloaks in their haste to rid them off. They'll steal what they can and flee, along with the serving men, washerwomen, and stable boys, all out to save their own worthless hides. Do you have any notion what happens when a city is sacked, Sansa? No, you wouldn't, would you? All you know of life you learnt from singers, and there's such a dearth of good sacking songs. True knights would never harm women and children. True knights. The Queen appears to be thoroughly entertained by that. No doubt you're right. So why don't you just eat your broth like a good girl and wait for Semrin Stareyes and Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight to come rescue you, sweetling? I'm sure it won't be very long now. Sansa is pretty smart in this chapter, trying to shame Joffrey into going where the fighting is thickest in hopes that he will die. In the previous Sansa chapter, she talked with the Hound about how there are no true knights, and this chapter seems to reinforce that with Ilyn Payne. Chapter 58. Davos is navigating the rough and choppy waters of Blackwater Bay, with Black Betha leading the way. Davos feels a sense of pride as his sons maintain a tight formation capturing the Wraith and Lady Maya. War horns boom across the sea, signaling the approach of their fleet. Stannis has entrusted the command of his fleet to Sir Ermy Florent, who is brother to Selyse, Stannis' wife. Davos orders the sails be brought down and the crew of Black Betha spring into action. 100 oars descend into the water. The 3 galleys maintain their speed. Davos and his sons are assigned a position in the second line of battle, on the perilous starboard wing. His son, Allard, sees it as an honourable position, eager to prove his bravery. However, Davos reminds him of the dangers they will face. Despite the lordly title of Seaworth, he still feels like Davos of Fleabottom, returning to his city. He possesses extensive knowledge of ships, sails, and shores, having fought many fierce battles on wet decks, but this type of battle makes him feel like a maiden. Smugglers don't blow war horns or raise banners. They flee when danger approaches. If he had been the admiral, he would have approached the situation differently. Davos would have sent some of his fastest ships to scout the river and assess the situation instead of charging headlong into battle. However, it is understandable why Sir Imry is in a hurry. Unfavourable winds have plagued their journey from Storm's End, resulting in the loss of 2 cogs to Shipbreaker Bay's treacherous rocks on the first day of sailing. A Myrish galley has also perished in the Straits of Tarth, and a storm has scattered the fleet across the narrow sea as they entered the gullet. Stannis would have arrived at the Rush several days ago, and angry to see his ships not here. The King's Road connects Storm's End directly to King's Landing, offering a much shorter path than travelling by sea. His army consists mainly of mounted soldiers, including nearly 20,000 knights, light horse and free riders, a gift from Renly to his brother. Despite their speed, heavily armoured horses and long lances would be of little use against the deep waters of the Blackwater Rush and the towering stone walls of the city. If the river is blocked, Sir Imry would have no choice but to halt and reassess the situation. Davos notices the Lannisters will have the river current in their favour because the Blackwater Rush is flowing strong and fast where it meets the sea. On the opposite shore, the south bank is filled with men and horses. Leading the first line of battle would be Sir Imry's Fury, accompanied by Lord Steffon Stag of the Sea, each commanding 200 oars. Behind Davos and his sons, there is another line of hundreds led by knights and noble captains. Following them are smaller and slower Myrish contingent. Further back are the carracks and large cogs that move slowly. Lastly, Salladhor Saan would come in his proud Valyrian ship, a towering 300 accompanied by the rest of his galleys with their distinct striped hulls. The flamboyant Lyseni princeling had not been pleased to be assigned to the rear guard, but it was clear that Sir Imry trusted him no more than Stannis did. Too many complaints and too much talk of the gold he was owed. Davos was sorry nonetheless. He knew Salladhor Saan was a resourceful old pirate, and his crews were born seamen, fearless in a fight. They were wasted in the rear. So Imry gives the signal to attack. The rowers intensify their strokes. Davos immediately realizes that a cut has been made through the bank, making the tower a challenging target for assault. Attackers would have to wade through the water or bridge the channel. Something gleams down below where the murky water spirals around the tower's base. A chain boom, and yet they have not closed the river against us? Why? Davos spots a slender line of Lannister galleys positioning across the river. As the first line enter the river, the enemy galleys begin to retreat. They want us jammed close, constricted, no way to sweep around their flanks. And with that chain behind us, Davos tasted a trap, yet he saw no sign of any foes sweeping in behind them. Only the great fleet of Stannis Baratheon in their ordered ranks, stretching back to the watery horizon. Will they raise the chain and cut us in two? He could not see what good that would serve. The ships left out in the bay could still land men north of the city, a slower crossing, but safer. Suddenly, a group of flickering orange birds emerge from the castle, around 20 or 30 of them. There are pots filled with burning pitch soaring through the air and leaving trails of flame behind them. Most of them are swallowed by the waters, but a few manage to land on the decks of the galleys in the front line of battle, igniting fires upon impact. A rain of arrows descend from the archer's nest that adorn the towers above. Davos' son, Mathos, hands him his helm. Davos accepts it and places it over his head. Meanwhile, the pitch pots begin to rain down upon them. A scorpion bolt narrowly misses Mathos, embedding itself into the deck with a loud thud. Davos hears the clash of the battle between Emry and the Lannister ships, although he does not see it directly. The sound of the collision between the two galleys reaching his ears. Stag of the Sea successfully splits one of Joffrey's galleys into two, but Nog's nose is engulfed in flames. Queen Alysanne finds herself trapped between Lady of Silk and Lady's Shame, with her crew engaged in a fierce fight against the attackers. "Loose!" commands Davos, and his archers unleash a devastating barrage of arrows across the water. He witnesses the captain of the King's Lander's ship fall. On land, the massive trebuchets raise their arms, launching 100 stones high into the yellow sky. Each stone is the size of a man's head. Davos orders ramming speed. Black Betha and Lady Maya collide with Lady Shame simultaneously, striking her from both the front and back with such intensity that men are thrown off deck from the Lady of Silk, which is 3 boats away. Davos nearly bites his tongue off as his teeth clash together. He spits out blood. A flash of green caught his eye ahead, and off to port, and a nest of writhing emerald serpents rose burning and hissing from the stern of Queen Alysanne. An instant later, Davos heard the dread cries of wildfire. Davos thinks it is a wicked substance, nearly impossible to extinguish. He issues rapid commands. Men engulfed in green flames jump into the water, emitting inhumane screams. Meanwhile, the walls of King's Landing are being bombarded by Spitfires, and the trebuchets near the Mudgate are hurling massive boulders. Mathos's urgent shouts alert Davos to the danger approaching from the left. One of the Lannisters' galleys is maneuvering to ram them. Davos bellows hard to starboard. For a moment, Davos fears they are too slow and that they will be sunk, but instead manage to board the enemy ship. Grappling lines are thrown, and Davos draws his sword, leading his men over the rail. The crew of the White Hart greet them at the railing, but Black Betha's soldiers overwhelm them in a fierce onslaught. Davos fights his way through the crowd, searching for the other captain, only to find him already dead. Someone attacks Davos from behind with an axe, but his helmet deflects the blow. His assailant charges at him, screaming. Davos tightly grips his sword with both hands and thrusts it into the man's abdomen, piercing him with the point. He removes his helmet, wipes the blood from his face, and cautiously makes his way back to his own ship, stepping carefully on the slippery boards stained with the entrails of men. Mathos extends a hand to assist him in crossing back over the railing. "Captain, sir," Mathos taps his shoulder. As Davos observes, the flames slowly extend. At the sight, Davos Seaworth's heart skips a beat. "No," he exclaimed. "No! No!" Amidst the deafening sounds of battle, only Mathos hears him. From inside Swordfish's hull, Davos sees green gushing from 1,000 broken jars, poison from the entrails of a dying beast. Glistening, shining, spreading across the surface of the river. In a split second, the deck disappears from beneath him, and the huge explosion sends Davos flying into the water. The forceful current ensnares him completely, causing him to spin uncontrollably. The Blackwater River itself appears to be boiling, with burning debris and injured men filling the air. Where the river broadened out into Blackwater Bay, the chain stretched 2 or 3 feet above the water. Already a dozen galleys had crashed into it, and the current was pushing others against them. Almost all were aflame, and the rest soon would be. Davos could make out the striped hulls of Salladhor Sand's ships beyond, but he knew he would never reach them. The mouth of the Blackwater Rush had turned into the mouth of hell. If only like in the show, Davos had been put in charge of Stannis' fleet, and he could have sent scout ships ahead, which honestly is such an obvious thing to do against an enemy that has had months to prepare for your attack. At the time, Salladhor Sand was really annoyed, but afterwards he was probably so grateful that he got put into the rear and was able to avoid the wildfire. The show's budget could never have done this, but a pitched sea battle for King's Landing would have been great to see before the wildfire explosion. Chapter 59. The river itself appears to be ablaze. Half of Stannis' fleet and most of Joffrey's are engulfed in flames, transforming once proud ships into funeral pyres and men into living torches. The air is thick with smoke, arrows, and screams. Downstream, both commoners and highborn captains could see the deadly green wildfire approaching their rafts and ships, carried by the current of the Blackwater. The sky above is covered in shifting shades of green, a terrible beauty reminiscent of dragonfire. Tyrion can't help but wonder if Aegon the Conqueror had experienced a similar feeling during the Field of Fire. While the Goldcloaks cheer from the hoardings, Tyrion remains silent. It is a bittersweet victory. He witnesses yet another one of the large ships filled with King Aerys' unpredictable weapons being consumed by the ravenous flames. Columns of fire, reaching heights of 30 to 40 feet, dance and crackle upon the water's surface. Do you hear them shrieking, Stannis? Do you see them burning? This is your work as much as mine. Tyrion knows that somewhere amidst the chaotic mass of men south of the Blackwater, Stannis is also observing. Unlike his brother Robert, he does not possess a thirst for battle. Stannis would command from a safe distance, from the rear or the reserve, much like Lord Tywin Lannister would be inclined to do. "My ships!" Joffrey's voice cracks as he calls out from the war, where he huddles with his guards behind the fortifications. "My king's land is burning. Queen Cersei, loyal man, look, that sea flower's there." He points with his newly appointed sword towards the area where the green flames are licking at Sea Flower's gilded hull and creeping up her oars. Tyrion is aware of her impending fate. There is no alternative. If they do not advance to confront them, Stannis would have detected the ambush. An arrow could be aimed, and a spear, even the stone from a catapult, but wildfire has a will of its own. Once loosed, it was beyond the control of mere men. "It could not be helped," he informs his nephew. "Our fleet was doomed anyway." Perched atop the Merlin, unable to see beyond the ramparts due to his height, Tyrion is engulfed in the chaos of battle, making it impossible to witness the events unfolding downriver beneath the castle. Bronn would have set the oxen in motion as soon as Stannis' flagship passes under the Red Keep. Although King Stannis has sailed his fleet up the Blackwater, he would not be able to row out again. Nevertheless, a few have managed to escape. The flow of the river proves to be unpredictable, and the wildfire does not spread as evenly as anticipated. 8 ships have managed to land near the city walls, whether intentionally or due to wreckage. To make matters worse, a considerable portion of the enemy's first 2 battle lines have already moved upstream of the Inferno, where the ships exploded. Stannis would be left with approximately 30 to 40 galleys, which should be more than significant to transport his entire army once they regain their courage. Tyrion is well aware of the reality when it comes to his own soldiers. Jacelyn Bywater has cautioned him that if the battle takes a turn for the worse, they would break and break badly. Therefore, the key to victory is to ensure that the battle remains favourable from beginning to end. It is crucial not to allow the enemy to regroup on the north bank. Descending from the Merlin, he instructs a runner assigned by Bywater to inform Lord Jacelyn about the enemy's presence on the riverfront. To another runner, he orders, "Bring my compliments to Sir Arnold and ask him to swing the oars 30 degrees west." Joffrey interjects, "Mother promised I could have the oars." Tyrion is irritated to see that the king has once again raised the visor of his helmet. Undoubtedly, the boy is sweltering inside the heavy armor, but the last thing he wants is for a random arrow to find its way through his nephew's eye. He slams the visor shut. "Keep that closed, your grace. Your sweet person is precious to us all, and you don't want to spoil that pretty face either. The oars are yours." Joffrey departs swiftly, accompanied by Sir Meryn, but Tyrion grasps Sir Osmond's wrist before he could leave. "Whatever happens, keep him safe and keep him there. Is that understood?" "As you command." Sir Osmond smiles amiably. Tyrion has given a warning to Trant and Kettleback about the consequences if any harm befalls the king. Joffrey has a group of experienced Goldcloaks waiting at the bottom of the steps. Protecting the king's safety is his priority, but he can't help but think bitterly that Cersei should have done the same for Alalea. Just as Joffrey leaves, a messenger rushes up the steps, urging Tyrion to hurry as men have landed on the tawny grounds with a ram at the king's gate. Tyrion curses and quickly makes his way down the steps with Podrick Payne and Sir Mandon Moore following closely behind. Upon reaching the king's gate, the sound of the battering ram hitting the gate is deafening. Despite the chaos, Tyrion takes charge and orders the defenders to form a strong column. As he prepares to lead them out, Sandor Clegane emerges, ready to join the fight. Tyrion stands his ground, determined to face the challenge ahead. Clegane's breathing is ragged. "Bugger that. And you?" A mercenary stands next to him. "We've been out 3 times. Half our men are killed or hurt. Wildfire bursting all around us. Horses screaming like men, and men like horses." "Did you think we hired you to fight in a tourney? Shall I bring you a nice iced milk and a bowl of raspberries? No? Then get on your effing horse. You too, dog." The blood on Clegane's face shimmers red, but his eyes are wide. He unsheaths his longsword. He's scared, Tyrion realizes, taken aback. The Hound is afraid. He attempts to clarify their situation. "They've taken a ram to the gate. You can hear them. We need to disperse them. Open the gates. When they rush inside, surround them and kill them." The Hound drives the tip of his longsword into the ground and rests on the pommel, saying, "I've lost half my men. Horse as well. I'm not taking more into that fire." Sir Mandon Moore stands next to Tyrion and addresses the Hound, pristine in his enameled white armor. "The king's hand commands you." "Bugger the king's hand. Someone bring me a drink." A gold cloak officer presents him with a cup. Clegane takes a sip, spits it out, and tosses the cup aside. "Water." "F your water. Bring me wine." Tyrion could discern it now. The injury, the flames. He's finished. He must locate someone else. But who? Sir Mandon? He surveys the men and realizes it would not suffice. Clegane's fear has unsettled them. Devoid of a leader, they would also rebel. And Sir Mandon, a formidable man, Jaime mentioned indeed, but not one whom other men would follow. In the distance, Tyrion could hear another loud crash. The darkening sky above the walls is filled with the streaks of green and orange light. How much longer could the gate withstand the assault? This situation seems like madness, but Tyrion believes that madness is preferable to defeat. Defeat means death and shame. Very well, I'll lead the sortie. Despite hoping that this decision would shame the Hound into action, Tyrion is mistaken. Clegane simply laughs at the idea of Tyrion leading. You. The disbelief is evident on their faces. Me, Sir Mandon, you will bear the king's banner. Pod, my helm. The boy hurries to fulfill the command. The Hound rests on his notched and blood-streaked sword, his wide white eyes fixed on Tyrion. Sir Mandon assists Tyrion in mounting his horse once more. "Form up," he commands. Podrick Payne hands him a helm and shield, both heavy and made of oak. The shield displays a golden hand on a red background, surrounded by small golden lions. He guides his horse into a circular motion, observing the small group of men. Only a few have responded to his command, no more than 20. They sit atop their horses with eyes as pale as the hounds. He looks disdainfully at the others, the knights and sellswords who have ridden with Clegane. "They say I'm half a man," he remarked. "What does that make the lot of you?" His words shamed them enough. A knight without a helmet mounts his horse and joins the others. 2 sellswords follow suit, then more. The king's gate trembles once again. In a matter of moments, the size of Tyrion's command has doubled. He has them cornered. "You won't hear me shout out Joffrey's name," he declares. "You won't hear me yell for Castle Rock either. This is your city Stannis means to sack, and that is your gate that he's bringing down. So come with me and kill the son of a..." Tyrion unsheaths his axe, turns his stallion around, and trots towards the Sally Port. He believes they are following, but he never dares to look. Honestly, the show did a great job at adapting this by saying Tyrion shout instead, "Those are brave men knocking at our door, let's go kill them." Sadly, Tyrion has Sir Mandon Moore behind him, who is planning to kill him later. It's funny how Tyrion is actually doing his best to keep Joffrey alive during the battle. Chapter 60. The wall sconces illuminate the Queen's ballroom with a radiant glow as the torches flicker against the hammered metal. The room is bathed in a silvery light, but an air of darkness still lingers. Sansa observed this darkness in the pale eyes of Sir Ilyn Payne, who remains motionless by the back door, abstaining from both food and wine. She could discern it in Lord Gylas's persistent cough and in the hushed voice of Osney Kettleback as he discreetly delivers news to Cersei. "The fleets are locked in battle. Some archers got ashore, but the hounds cut them to pieces, your grace. Your brother's raising his chain. I heard the signal. Some drunkards down to Flea Bottom are smashing doors and climbing through windows. Lord Bywater's sent the gold cloaks to deal with them. Baelor's sept is jammed full. Everyone praying. And my son? The king went to Baelor's to get High Septon's blessing. Now he's walking the walls with a hand, telling the men to be brave, lifting their spirits, as it were." Cersei summons her attendant to bring her another glass of wine, a luxurious golden vintage from the arbor, known for its fruity and opulent flavors. The queen indulges in the drink, yet it appears to enhance her beauty even further. Her cheeks are tinged with a rosy hue, and her eyes exude a vibrant, intense fervor as she surveys the whole. Sansa can't help but compare her eyes to wildfire. Musicians perform their melodies while jugglers skillfully toss their objects in the air. Moonboy, towering on stilts, amuses the crowd by mocking everyone around him. Meanwhile, Sir Dantas playfully chases after serving girls on his makeshift broomstick horse. The guests erupt in laughter, but it is a laughter devoid of joy. Although physically present, their minds and hearts are preoccupied with thoughts of the city walls. Sansa is not the sole individual in the hall who lacked an appetite. Lolly Stokeworth sits huddled and trembling, and the young bride of one of Sir Lancel's knights succumbs to uncontrollable weeping. "Tears," the queen remarks disdainfully to Sansa. "The woman's weapon. My lady mother used to call them. The man's weapon is a sword, and that tells us all you need to know, doesn't it? Men must be very brave though," said Sansa. "To ride out and face swords and axes, everyone trying to kill you? Jaime told me once that he only feels truly alive in battle and in bed. I would sooner face any number of swords than sit helpless like this, pretending to enjoy the company of this flock and frightened hens. You ask them here, your grace. Certain things are expected of a queen. They will be expected of you should you ever wed Joffrey. Best learn." The queen observes the women who occupy the benches, studying their roles as wives, daughters, and mothers. Of themselves, the hens are nothing, but their cocks are important for one reason or another. and some may survive this battle, so it behooves me to give their women my protection. If my wretched dwarf of a brother should somehow manage to prevail, they will return to their husbands and fathers, full of tales about how brave I was, how my courage inspired them and lifted their spirits, how I never doubted our victory even for a moment. And if the castle should fall, you'd like that, wouldn't you? Cersei doesn't hesitate for a moment. If I'm not betrayed by my own guards, I may be able to hold here for a time. Then I can go to the walls and offer to yield to Lord Stannis in person. That will spare us the worst. But if Maegor's holdfast should fall before Stannis can come up, why then, most of my guests are in for a bit of I'd say, and you should never rule out mutilation, torture, and murder at times like these. Sansa is horrified. These are women, unarmed and gently born. Their birth protects them, Cersei admits, though not as much as you'd think. Each one's worth a good ransom, but after the madness of battle, soldiers often seem to want flesh more than coin. Even so, a golden shield is better than none. Out in the streets, the women won't be treated nearly as tenderly, nor will our servants. Pretty things like that serving wench of Lady Tanders could be in for a lively night, but don't imagine the old and the infirm and the ugly will be spared. Enough drink will make blind washerwomen and reeking pig girls seem as comely as you, sweetling. Me? Try not to sound like a mouse, Sansa. You're a woman now, remember? And betrothed to my firstborn. The queen delicately tastes her wine. Were it anyone else outside the gates, I might hope to beguile him. But this is Stannis Baratheon. I'd have a better chance of seducing his horse. She observes the expression on Sansa's face, prompting her to chuckle. Have I shocked you, my lady? She moved in closer. You little fool. Tears are not a woman's only weapon. You've got another one, between your legs, and you'd best learn to use it. You'll find men use their swords freely enough. Both kinds of swords. Sansa is relieved from the obligation to respond when the hall is re-entered by two Kettleblacks. Osney's face is filled with joy as he humbly kneels next to the Queen. The hulks have gone up, Your Grace. The whole Blackwater's awash with wildfire. 100 ships burning, maybe more. And my son? He's at the Mudgate with the Hand and the Kingsguard, Your Grace. He spoke to the archers on the hoardings before and gave them a few tips on handling a crossbow, he did. All agree he's a right brave boy. He'd best remain a right live boy. Cersei shifts her gaze towards Osfryd. Yes, Osfryd is wearing a steel half-helm over his lengthy black hair, his expression stern. Your Grace, he says softly. The boys caught a groom and 2 maidservants trying to sneak out a postern with 3 of the king's horses. The night's first traitors, the Queen announces. But not the last, I fear. Have Sir Ilyn see to them and put their heads on pikes outside the stables as a warning. Upon their departure, she focuses again on Sansa. Another lesson you should learn if you hope to sit beside my son. Be gentle on a night like this and you'll have treasons popping up all about you like mushrooms after a hard rain. The only way to keep your people loyal is to make certain they fear you more than they do the enemy. I will remember, Your Grace, Sansa expresses. The Queen's speech is beginning to become slurred. When we were little, Jaime and I were so much alike that even our Lord Father could not tell us apart. Sometimes as a lark we would dress in each other's clothes and spend a whole day as the other. Yet even so, when Jaime was given his first sword, there was none for me. What do I get? I remember asking. We were so much alike, I could never understand why they treated us so differently. Jaime learned to fight with sword and lance and mace, while I was taught to smile and sing and please. He was heir to Castle Rock, while I was to be sold to some stranger like a horse, to be ridden whenever my new owner liked, beaten whenever he liked, and cast aside in time for a younger filly. Jaime's lot was to be glory and power, while mine was birth and moonblood. But you are queen of all the 7 kingdoms, Sansa states. When it comes to swords, a queen is only a woman after all. The servant refills Cersei's empty cup, however, she declines by turning it upside down and shaking her head. No more. I must keep a clear head. Your Grace, Osney murmurs. Stannis has landed men on the tawny grounds, and there's more coming across. The Mudgate's under attack, and they've brought a ram to the King's Gate. The imp's gone out to drive them off. That will fill them with fear. The Queen's words were devoid of any emotions as she spoke. He hasn't take Joff, I hope. No, Your Grace. The King's with my brother, at the oars, flinging antler men into the river. With the Mudgate under assault? Folly. Tells her husband I want him out of there at once. It's too dangerous. Fetch him back to the castle. The imp said, It's what I said that ought concern you. Cersei's gaze became more focused. Your brother will do as he's told, or I'll see to it that he leads the next sortie himself, and you'll go with him. A few of the women have started to cry, and Sansa senses her own eyes becoming damp. Very good, dear. The Queen draws near. You want to practice those tears. You'll need them for King Stannis. Sansa fidgets anxiously. Your Grace? Oh, spare me your hollow courtesies. Matters must have reached a desperate strait out there if they need a dwarf to lead them. So you might as well take off your mask. I know all about your little treasons in the Godswood. The Godswood? I've done no treasons. I only visit the Godswood to pray. For Stannis or your brother, it's all the same. Why else seek your father's gods? You're praying for our defeat. What would you call that, if not treason? I pray for Joffrey, she nervously insists. Why? Because he treats you so sweetly? The Queen pours Sansa a cup of sweet plum wine. Drink, she orders in a chilly tone. Perhaps it will give you the courage to deal with the truth for a change. Sansa raises the goblet to her mouth and indulges in a sip. The wine possesses an overpowering sweetness, yet it exudes a remarkable potency. You can do better than that, Cersei says. Drain the cup, Sansa. Your queen commands you. Sansa struggles to keep it down, but she manages to finish the cup, swallowing the rich, sweet wine until she feels lightheaded. More? Cersei asks. No, please. The Queen appears dissatisfied. When you asked about Sir Ilyn earlier, I lied to you. Would you like to hear the truth, Sansa? Would you like to know why he's really here? Sansa hasn't even noticed Sir Ilyn's return to the hall, but all of a sudden he emerges from the shadows behind the platform, moving as silently as a feline. He holds ice, the sword, without its sheath. Tell Lady Sansa why I keep you by us, Cersei says. Sir Ilyn's mouth opens, producing a choking sound. His face, marked by pox scars, remains devoid of any expression. He's here for us, he says, the Queen says. Stannis may take the city and may take the throne, but I will not suffer him to judge me. I do not mean for him to have us alive. Us? You heard me, so perhaps you had best pray against Sansa, and for a different outcome. The Starks will have no joy from the fall of House Lannister, I promise you. Cersei is kind of right here about how unfair it was that she and Jaime were treated so differently because of their gender. Jaime could be whatever he wanted to be, whereas Cersei only had one path laid out before her, and that was it. Cersei also saying she would have better luck seducing his horse is quite funny, and reminds you that Cersei and Stannis lived alongside each other in the Red Keep with Renly for many years before the events of A Game of Thrones, and would honestly make such a fun prequel series. Chapter 61. Tyrion's field of vision is restricted by the slot in his helmet, allowing him to only see what lay directly in front of him. However, upon turning his head, he sees 3 galleys grounded, while a 4th, notably larger than the rest, floats further out in the river, firing at them from a catapult. Wedge, Tyrion issues orders as his soldiers pour out of the sally port. They organize themselves into a spearhead formation with Tyrion positioned at the forefront. Sir Mandon Moore positions himself to Tyrion's right, the flames reflecting off the pristine white enamel of his armor, his lifeless eyes devoid of any emotion visible through his helmet. To Tyrion's left, he is taken aback to find Podrick Payne, wielding a sword in his hand. You're too young, he says. Go back. I'm your squire, my lord. Tyrion has no time to waste on arguing. With me, then, stay close. He spares his horse into action. They ride side by side, Joffrey's banner fluttering in the wind, displaying the colours of crimson and gold as the stag and lion emblem dance together. Arrows fly from the city's defences, while stones rain down haphazardly on the ground, the sea, and the soldiers below. Up ahead stands the King's Gate, where a group of soldiers struggle with a massive ram made of black oak and iron. "Lancers," Tyrion commands. The terrain beneath him is drenched and treacherous, a mixture of mud and blood. Below the gate, the men scramble, hastily preparing themselves for the impending impact. Tyrion raises his axe and exclaims, "To King's Landing!" Sir Mandon lowers his lance just in time, impaling a man in a studded jerkin with Joffrey's banner before the shaft breaks. In front of Tyrion is a knight. He strikes the man in the face with his axe, knocking off half his head. A spear hits his shield as Pod rides beside him, attacking every enemy they encounter. Tyrion takes down an archer, slices open a spearman, and deflects a blow from a swordfish-crested helm. Sir Mandon swiftly passes him, cutting off limbs, cracking heads, and breaking shields as he goes. Only a few enemies manage to cross the river with their shields intact. Tyrion leads the charge. The enemy forces are retreating. He scans the battlefield from side to side, searching for any sign of Podrick Payne. Suddenly, an arrow grazes his cheek, narrowly missing his eye. With determination, he spurs his horse onward, maneuvering through the fallen bodies. In the distance, the Blackwater River is filled with burning ships. Wisps of wildfire continue to dance on the surface, casting emerald flames high into the sky. Amidst the steel and padding of his helmet, he could hear the agonizing cries, the insatiable crackling of fire, the ominous war horns, and the resounding trumpets. A deafening crash reverberates across the Blackwater as a massive stone has struck one of the galleys squarely. His unit has dispersed. Each man is now fighting his own battle. The weight of the axe presses heavily in his grip. A small group of loyal followers trail behind him, while the rest have either perished or fled. Men emerge from the river, their bodies burnt and bleeding, coughing up water as they stumble forward, many on the brink of death. Leading his troops through the chaos, he swiftly ends the suffering of those strong enough to still stand. As his horse rears once more, he defiantly brandishes his axe towards the stars, hearing them echo the name, "Half man, half man." Tyrion feels a sense of intoxication wash over him. The sensation of battle fever is something he had never expected to feel, despite Jaime frequently describing it to him. You don't feel your wounds then, or the ache in your back from the weight of your armor, or the sweat running down into your eyes. You stop feeling, you stop thinking, you stop being you. There is only the fight, the foe, this man, and then the next, and the next, and the next. And you know they are afraid and tired, but you're not. You're alive, and death is all around you, but their swords move so slowly you can dance through them laughing. A soldier seizes the reins of his horse and lunges at Tyrion with a dagger. Tyrion deflects the blade and plunges his axe into the back of the soldier's neck. Tyrion maneuvers his horse to face the Blackwater, observing the relentless glow of the dark current below. The sky above displays hues of red, orange, and an unsettling shade of vibrant green. Suddenly, a group of armored soldiers are disembarking from a damaged galley that has collided with a pier. There are at least 20 galleys clustered together. Tyrion sees a knight who is foolishly attempting to traverse the treacherous path. The knight urges his frightened horse to cross over the gunwales and oars, amidst tilting decks stained with blood. In dismay, Tyrion realizes that they have unintentionally created a perilous bridge. "Those are brave men," he tells Sir Balon. "Let's go kill them." He guided them through the flickering flames and the dirt and soot of the riverfront, charging down a lengthy stone quay with his own soldiers and those of Sir Balon following closely. Sir Mandon joins their ranks, his shield in tatters. A spearman bearing the red crab emblem of House Celtigar thrusts his weapon through the chest of Balon Swan's horse before the knight could dismount, sending him crashing to the ground. Tyrion swiftly swings his axe at the man's head as he rides past, but it is too late to stop his horse. The stallion leaps off the edge of the quay and over a broken gunwale, landing in the shallow water with a loud splash and a cry. Tyrion's axe flies out of his hand, followed by Tyrion himself, landing on the wet deck with a resounding thud. Madness ensues. His horse has a broken leg and is screaming in agony. Somehow, he manages to unsheath his dagger and put the poor creature out of its misery by slitting its throat. Regaining his footing, he stumbles towards the rail, engaging in a chaotic battle. Men approach him. Some he kills, some he injures, and some retreated. But more keep coming. Losing his knife, he acquires a broken spear without knowing how. Clutching it tightly, he stabs wildly, shouting curses. Men flee from him, and he pursues them, climbing over the rail onto the next ship and then the next. His two companions, Balon Swan and Mandon Moore, fight alongside him, their movements as elegant as a dance, surrounded by Valyrian spearmen. In contrast, his own fighting is crude, stabbing a man in the kidney from behind and tossing another into the river by his leg. Arrows whiz past him, bouncing off his armor, with one piercing between his shoulder and breastplate unnoticed. Suddenly, a naked man plummets from above, his body exploding upon impact on the deck, splattering blood through the opening in Tyrion's helmet. The river rushes into his helm unexpectedly. He quickly removes it. The ship is on the verge of breaking apart. Just as he comprehends the imminent danger, a deafening crack echoes like thunder, causing the deck to shift beneath him, and he slips back into the water. The incline is so steep that he struggles to climb back up, dragging himself along a broken line inch by painful inch. Fires blaze both upstream and downstream. For a moment, Tyrion feels as though he is losing his mind, as if Stannis and the castle have switched places. Tyrion is too exhausted to comprehend it all. His shoulder throbs with pain, and as he reaches up to massage it, he notices the arrow lodged there, prompting his memory. Amidst the chaos of the battlefield, a faint voice called out his name. Tyrion attempted to respond with a shout. "Here! Here! I'm here! Help me! My lord, take my hand! My lord Tyrion!" On the deck of the approaching ship, Sir Mandon Moore stands with his hand outstretched across the dark expanse of water. Tyrion reached for it all the same, wishing his arms were longer. It was only at the very last, as their fingers brushed across the gap, that something niggled at him. Sir Mandon was holding out his left hand. Why? Was that why he reeled backward? Or did he see the sword after all? He would never know. The point slashed just beneath his eyes, and he felt its cold, hard touch and then a blaze of pain. His head spun around as if he'd been slapped. The shock of the cold water was a second slap more jolting than the first. He flailed for something to grab onto, knowing that once he went down, he was not like to come back up. Somehow, his hand found the splitted end of a broken oar. Clutching it tight as a desperate lover, he shimmied up foot by foot. His eyes were full of water, his mouth was full of blood, and his head throbbed horribly. Gods give me the strength to reach the deck. There was nothing else, only the oar, the water, the deck. He eventually turns to his side and lies down, gasping for air and feeling completely drained, lying flat on his back. Sir Mandon obstructs his view. The knight appears as a white steel silhouette, his eyes gleaming ominously from behind his helmet. Sir Mandon positions the tip of his sword at the base of his throat and grips the hilt with both hands. Suddenly, he lurches to the left, stumbling into the railing. The wood splinters and Sir Mandon Moore disappears with a shout and a splash. In the next moment, the ship collides once more, causing the deck to jolt violently. Then someone kneels beside him. "Jaime?" he wheezes, nearly choking on the blood in his mouth. Who else but his brother would come to his rescue? "Be still, my lord. You're hurt bad." Tyrion ponders, perplexed by the inexplicable sound of a young lad's voice. It bears an uncanny resemblance to Pod. Tyrion's description of Stannis' men crossing the bridge of broken ships covered in fire and blood to meet them is such a good scene that it's a tragedy the show didn't adapt this, although at the same time you can see why. So, why did Mandon Moore try and kill Tyrion? Well, Tyrion thinks it was Cersei or Joffrey. However, Mandon Moore was appointed to the Kingsguard by Jon Arryn. However, Jon Arryn didn't like him, which means it was probably Lyla's suggestion, which means it was probably Littlefinger. Probably because Tyrion knows he lied about the dagger and could use that to incriminate Littlefinger in front of Tywin. So, before departing King's Landing, Littlefinger probably instructed Mandon to find the best time to kill Tyrion without it being suspicious. Funnily enough, Littlefinger will try and kill Tyrion again in the Purple Wedding, only to kill Joffrey instead. Chapter 62. Upon hearing Sir Lancel Lannister's report of the lost battle, the Queen absent-mindedly rotates her empty wine cup in her hand and calmly responds, "Tell my brother, sir." Sir Lancel, blood seeping from his wounded arm, retorts, "He was on the bridge of boats when it broke apart, we think. Sir Mandon's likely gone as well, and no one can find the hound. Gods be damned, Cersei. Why did you have them fetch Joffrey back to the castle? The gold cloaks are throwing down their spears and running, hundreds of them. When they saw the king leaving, they lost all heart. The whole Blackwater's awash with wrecks and fires and corpses. But we could have held if..." Interrupting him, Osney Kettleblack interjects, "There's fighting on both sides of the river now, your grace. It may be that some of Stannis' lords are fighting each other, no one's sure. It's all confused over there. The hound's gone, no one knows where, and Sir Balin's fallen back inside the city. The riverside's theirs, they're ramming at the King's Gate again, and Sir Lancel's right, your men are deserting the walls and killing their own officers. There's mobs at the Iron Gate and the Gate of the Gods fighting to get out, and Flea Bottom's one great drunken riot." The Queen's mind is filled with a mix of emotions. Despite the chaos surrounding her, the Queen manages to maintain an eerie calmness. Raise the drawbridge and bar the doors. No one enters or leaves Maegor's without my leave. What about them women who went to pray? They chose to leave my protection. Let them pray. Perhaps the gods will defend them. Where's my son? The castle gatehouse. He wanted to command the crossbowmen. There's a mob howling outside. Half of them gold cloaks who came with him when we left the Mudgate. Bring him inside Maegor's now. No! Lancel is so angry he forgets to keep his voice down. Heads turn towards them as he shouts, "We'll have the Mudgate all over again. Let him stay where he is. He's the king. He's my son." Cersei Lannister stands up from her seat. "You claim to be a Lannister as well, cousin. Prove it. Osbred, why are you still standing there? Now means today." A few women are in tears. Some are deep in prayer, while others stay put at their tables, requesting additional wine. "Cersei," Sir Lancel pleads, "if we lose the castle, Joffrey will be killed in any case. You know that. Let him stay. I'll keep him by me, I swear. Get out of my way." Cersei strikes her open palm against his wound, causing Sir Lancel to cry out in agony and nearly collapse as the Queen exits the room. Sansa is completely ignored by her. "Oh gods," an old woman wails. "We're lost. The battle's lost. She's running." Numerous children are in tears, sensing the fear in the air. Sansa is left isolated on the platform. "Don't be afraid," she tells them. "The Queen has raised the drawbridge. This is the safest place in the city. There's thick walls, the moat, the spikes." "What's happened?" demands one woman. "Is the king hurt? Has the city fallen?" "Tell us," someone else shouts. Sansa indicates for everyone to be quiet. "Joffrey's come back to the castle. He's not hurt. They're still fighting. That's all I know. They're fighting bravely. The Queen will be back soon." She observes the fools gathered beneath the gallery. "Moonboy, make us laugh." Moonboy executes a somersault, then leaps onto a table. He picks up 4 wine cups and starts juggling them. Occasionally one would fall and hit him on the head. A few hesitant chuckles reverberates in the room. Sansa approaches Sir Lancel and kneels next to him. The wound on his body has started bleeding again as a result of the Queen's strike. "Madness," he gasps. "Gods, the imp was right. Was right." Sansa has managed to assist the wounded knight to stand up. "Take him to Maester Franken." Lancel answers, "I am feeble and foolish, just as Joffrey claims. I ought to be ending him, not aiding him." Cersei is still absent. Sir Dantas has ascended the platform and announces, "Go back to your bedchamber, sweet Jonquil," he whispers. "Lock yourself in. You'll be safer there. I'll come for you when the battle's done." Sansa pondered whether it would be him or Sir Ilyn who would come for her. It requires all her willpower to walk slowly from the Queen's ballroom instead of running. Sansa secures the door to her pitch-black bedchamber and cautiously navigates her way towards the window. As she forcefully pulls back the drapes, a gasp escapes her lips. The southern sky is ablaze with a mesmerizing display of ever-changing colors, a reflection of the raging fires below. Sinister green waves clash against the underbellies of the clouds, while patches of orange light sprawl across the celestial expanse. Overwhelmed, Sansa retreats from the window, seeking solace in the safety of her bed. Suddenly, there is movement behind her, and an unknown hand emerges from the darkness, firmly seizing her wrist. Sansa attempts to scream, but before she could, another hand forcefully covers her mouth, suffocating her. "Little bird, I knew you'd come." The voice is a drunken rasp. In that fleeting moment, she catches sight of him, a figure cloaked in black and green, his face smeared with blood as dark as tar, his eyes shining like a dog's in the abrupt illumination. "If you scream, I'll kill you. Believe that." He removes his hand from her mouth. The hound has a flagon of wine resting on her bedside table, from which he takes a long sip. "Don't you want to ask who's winning the battle, little bird?" "Who?" She expressed her fear by not daring to oppose him. The hound chuckles. "I only know who's lost. Me." "What have you lost?" "All." His face, charred and disfigured, is covered in a crust of coagulated blood. "Bloody dwarf. Should have killed him years ago." "He's dead, they say." "Dead? No. Bugger that. I don't want him dead." He discards the vacant flagon. "I want him burned. If the gods are good, they'll burn him, but I won't be here to see. I'm going." "Going?" She attempts to break free, but his grip is unyielding. The little bird repeats whatever she hears. "Going, yes." "Where will you go?" "Away from here. Away from the fires. Go out the Iron Gate, I suppose. North somewhere. Anywhere." "You won't get out," Sansa says. "The Queen's closed up Maegor's, and the city gates are shut as well." "Not to me. I have the White Cloak. And I have this." He gently taps the hilt of his sword. "The man who tries to stop me is a dead man, unless he's on fire." He laughs bitterly. "Why did you come here?" "You promised me a song, little bird. Have you forgotten?" It is impossible for her to serenade him at this moment, amidst the chaotic sky ablaze with fire and countless lives being lost. "I can't," she says. "Let me go. You're scaring me." "Everything scares you. Look at me. Look at me." His scars are concealed by blood. The burnt edge of his mouth twitches incessantly. "I could keep you safe," he rasps. "They're all afraid of me. No one would hurt you again, or I'd kill them." He pulls her in tightly, and she briefly believes he was going to kiss her. His strength is overpowering. She shuts her eyes, hoping it would end soon. Yet, nothing happens. Still can't bear to look, can you? He forcefully twists her arm, turning her and pushing her onto the bed. "I'll have that song. Florian and Jonquil, you said." His dagger is out, held at her throat. "Sing, little bird. Sing for your little life." Her throat is parched and constricted with terror, and all the melody she had ever known has vanished from her memory. She sings for him, but her voice sounds feeble and fragile, quivering in her own ears. She has forgotten most of the verses. Then the hound withdraws the blade from her throat, without uttering a word. "Little bird," he utters once more, his voice filled with rawness and a harshness akin to steel scraping against stone. Then he stands up from the bed. Sansa could hear the sound of fabric tearing, followed by the softened noise of retreating footsteps. After what has felt like an eternity, she finally crawls out of bed, only to find herself alone. His cloak lies on the floor, tightly twisted and stained with blood and fire. Eventually she hears a distant bell ringing. The sound resonates deeply, like a booming bronze, and it grows louder with each toll. As the first faint light of dawn appears in the eastern sky, the Red Keep's bells begin to ring as well. She recalls that the bells have tolled when King Robert passed away, but this time it is different. It isn't a slow, mournful death knell, but rather a jubilant thunder. She could also hear men shouting in the streets, accompanied by what seems to be cheers. Sir Dantas then stumbles into her unlocked door, envelops her in his flaccid embrace, and spins her around the room repeatedly, shouting in such a jumbled manner that Sansa can't comprehend a single word. He finally released her. "What is it?" She clutches at a bedpost. "What happened? Tell me." "It's done! 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 The city is saved! Lord Stannis is dead. Lord Stannis is fled. No one knows. No one cares. His host is broken. The danger's done. Slaughtered, scattered, or gone over, they say. Oh, the bright banners. The banners, Jonquil, the banners. Do you have any wine? We ought to drink to this day. Yes, it means you're safe, don't you see?" Sir Dantas chuckles and hops back and forth, teetering on the brink of losing his balance. They came up through the ashes while the river was burning. The river. Stannis was neck deep in the river, and they took him from the rear. His own men hardly fought, they say. Some ran, but more bent the knee and went over, shouting for Lord Renly. What must Stannis have thought when he heard that? We're delivered, sweetling. All the Westermen, all the power of Highgarden and Castle Rock. Lord Tywin himself had their right wing on the north side of the river, with Randall Tarly commanding the centre, and Mace Tyrell the left. But the vanguard won the fight. They plunged through Stannis like a lance through a pumpkin, every man of them howling like some demon in steel. And do you know who led the vanguard? Do you? Do you? Do you? Rob? It was Lord Renly! Lord Renly in his green armour, with the fire shimmering off his golden antlers. Lord Renly with his tall spear in hand. They say he killed Sir Gaiad Morrigan himself in single combat, and a dozen other great knights as well. It was Renly! It was Renly! It was Renly! Oh, the banners, darling Sansa. Oh, to be a knight. So we find out later it was Garland Tyrell wearing Renly's armour here, which is a clever bit of theatrics to terrify Stannis' men. We also find out later from Garland that this attack was only possible because Tyrion had deployed his mountain clans into the Kingswood, who killed all of Stannis' scouts, so he had no way of knowing that an entire army was coming up his rear until it was too late. Sansa also thinks the Hound kissed her in this chapter, but George has confirmed that he didn't, and Sansa is just misremembering, which shows point of view characters cannot always be fully trusted. Now, why didn't he force himself on Sansa? Well, the biggest theme of A Song of Ice and Fire probably is free will and choice. For example, the heart always being in conflict with itself, and how songs like the song Sansa sings the Hound can inspire people to be better. This is actually why the Hound let her go, because the song she sung was so beautiful and he was moved. Songs can also inspire us to believe in knights and chivalry, or do horrible things. Chapter 63. I have won no victories, Daenerys explains to her handmaiden. Jiqui disagrees. You burned the Magi in their house of dust and sent their souls to hell. That was Drogo's triumph, not hers, Dani wishes to say, but she keeps silent. To protect her people and her dragons during her absence, she has selected Ricaro, Jogo, and Aggo to accompany her to the waterfront. The streets are bustling with children, beggars, and thin dogs. Sir Jorah would have preferred to shelter her within the safety of her palanquin. However, she has declined his offer. She has spent too much time reclining on satin cushions, being transported aimlessly by oxen. When she rides, she feels a sense of progress. Xaro has informed her that Pyat Pri is gathering the remaining warlocks to plot against her. Xaro appears troubled. It is said that the glass candles are burning in the house of Urathon Nightwalker. They have not burned in 100 years. Ghost grass grows in the garden of Jahane. Phantom tortoises have been seen carrying messages between the windowless houses on Warlock's Way, and all the rats in the city are chewing off their tails. The wife of Mathis Malawan, who once mocked a warlock's drab moth-eaten robe, has gone mad and will wear no clothes at all. Even fresh, washed silks make her feel as though 1,000 insects were crawling on her skin, and blind Sebastian the Eater of Eyes can see again. or so his slaves do swear. A man must wonder, he sighs. These are strange times in Qarth, and strange times are bad for trade. It grieves me to say so, yet it might be best if you left Qarth entirely, and sooner rather than later. Xaro strokes her fingers reassuringly. You need not go alone though. You have seen dark visions in the Palace of Dust, but Xaro has dreamed brighter dreams. I see you happily abed with our child at your breast. Sail with me around the Jade Sea, and we can yet make it so. It is not too late. Give me a son, my sweet song of joy. I will not wed you, Xaro. His face has grown cold. Then go. But where? Somewhere far from here. The members of her Khalasar have started to become restless. The Dothraki are not used to settling in one place for too long. Xaro's eyes sparkle like the jewels in his nose. I am a trader, Khaleesi, so perhaps we should speak no more of giving, but rather of trade. For one of your dragons, you shall have 10 of the finest ships in my fleet. You need only say that one sweet word. No, she replies. Would you ask a mother to sell one of her children? Why ever not? They can always make more. Mothers sell their children every day. Not the mother of dragons. Not even for 20 ships. Not for 100. Dani hasn't seen him since then. His Senchal delivers cold messages demanding her departure from his house and the return of his gifts. Aggo leads the way, with Jogo following closely behind, while Ser Jorah Mormont remains by her side. The sound of her bell chimes softly, prompting Dani to once again think of the Palace of Dust. They had called her the Child of Three, Daughter of Death, Slayer of Lies, Bride of Fire. So many threes, 3 fires, 3 mounts to ride, 3 treasons. The dragon has 3 heads, she sighs. Do you know what that means, Jorah? Your Grace? The sigil of House Targaryen is a 3-headed dragon, red on black. The 3 heads were Aegon and his sisters, Visenya and Rhaenys, she remembers. I am descended from Aegon and Rhaenys through their son Aenys and their grandson Jaehaerys. Why do you care what the warlocks whispered? All they wanted was to suck the life from you. You know that now. Perhaps, she says reluctantly. Yet, the things I saw... Ser Jorah frowns. Dani can't get it out of her mind. His is the song of ice and fire, my brother said. I'm certain it was my brother. Not Viserys, Rhaegar. He had a harp with silver strings. Ser Jorah's expression grows more serious. Prince Rhaegar played such a harp. You saw him? She nods. There was a woman in a bed with a babe at her breast. My brother said the babe was the prince that was promised and told her to name him Aegon. Prince Aegon was Rhaegar's heir by Elia of Dawn, Ser Jorah says. But if he was the prince that was promised, the promise was broken along with his skull when the Lannisters bashed his head against a wall. I remember, Dani says with a tinge of sadness. They murdered Rhaegar's daughter as well, the little princess, Rhaenys she was named, like Aegon's sister. There was no Visenya, but he said the dragon has 3 heads. What is the song of ice and fire? It's no song I've ever heard. I went to the warlocks hoping for answers, but instead they left me with 100 new questions. The waterfront serves as a bustling marketplace where trade continues day and night. Ogo, Jogo, you will guard the horses while Ser Jorah speak to the captains. They approach the first ship. Sailors, dock workers, and merchants all step aside, unsure of what to make of this slender young girl with silver golden hair, dressed in Dothraki attire, accompanied by a knight. The captain of the Grand Cog, Ardent Friend, inquires, You require passage for 100 Dothraki, all their horses, yourself and this knight, and 3 dragons. He walks away, laughing. When she introduces herself as Daenerys Stormborn, Queen of the 7 Kingdoms, to Alysseni on the Trumpeter, he gives her a disdainful look and retorted, Aye, and I'm Lord Tywin Lannister, and shot gold every night. The cargo master of the Myrish galley, Silken Spirit, expresses his opinion that dragons are too perilous to have at sea. The owner of Lord Pharaoh's Belly is willing to take the risks of dragons, but not of the Dothraki. As they proceed toward the next dock, Ser Jorah places his hand on the lower part of her back. Your Grace, you are being followed. No, do not turn. He gently guides her towards a stall where brass items are being sold. "This is a noble work, my queen," he declares loudly, presenting a large platter to her. "See how it shines in the sun?" She could catch a glimpse of what is behind her. "I see a fat brown man and an older man with a staff. Which is it?" "Both of them," Ser Jorah says. "They have been following us since we left Quicksilver." A Qartheen suddenly appears in her path, presenting a jewel box to her. Kneeling, he offers it to the Mother of Dragons. Dani accepts it. She opens it. Inside is a dazzling green scarab made of onyx and emerald, but the scarab suddenly unfurls with a hiss. Dani caught a glimpse of a malign black face, almost human, and an arched tail dripping venom, and then the box flew from her hand in pieces, turning end over end. Sudden pain twisted her fingers. As she cried out and clutched her hand, the brass merchant let out a shriek. A woman screamed, and suddenly the Qartheen were shouting and pushing each other aside. Ser Jorah slammed past her, and Dani stumbled to one knee. She heard the hiss again. The old man drove the butt of his staff into the ground. Aggo came riding through an egg seller's stall and vaulted from his saddle. Jogo's whip cracked overhead. Ser Jorah slammed the eunuch over the head with the brass platter. Sailors and oars and merchants were fleeing or shouting or both. "Your Grace, 1,000 pardons," the old man kneels. "It's dead. Did I break your hand?" She closes her fingers, wincing. "I don't think so. I had to knock it away." "Khaleesi, we saw him strike you. Would you see the color of his blood?" Jogo asks, placing a dagger against the man's throat. "Release him." Dani rises to her feet. "Your Grace?" Mormont slightly lowers his sword. "These men attacked you." "They were defending me. It was the other one, the Qartheen. But he has vanished. There was a manticore in that jewel box he gave me. This man knocked it out of my hand." She approaches him and assists him in standing. "Were you stung?" "No, good lady," he replies, "or else I would be dead. But it touched me. When it fell from the box, it landed on my arm." She rewards him with a silver for his troubles and sends him on his way before redirecting her attention to the elderly man with a white beard. "Who is it that I owe my life to?" "You owe me nothing, Your Grace. I am called Arstan, though Belwaz named me Whitebeard on the voyage here." "And who is Belwaz?" she asked. The towering brown eunuch confidently stepped forward, sheathing his arak. "I am Belwaz." "And why are you here, Belwaz? You were sent by Magister Illyroy?" "We were, Your Grace," old Whitebeard replies. "I regret if we caused you alarm. If truth be told, we were not certain. We expected someone more regal?" Dani chuckles. She is without a dragon and her attire is far from queenly. "Now tell me, what would Magister Illyroy have of me that he would send you all the way from Pentos?" Dani smiles. "He would have dragons," says Belwaz, "and the girl who makes them. He would have you." "We were told to find you and bring you back to Pentos. The 7 kingdoms have need of you. Robert the Usurper is dead, and the realm bleeds. When we set sail from Pentos, there were 4 kings in the land, and no justice to be had," Arstan says. "I have 3 dragons," she says, "and more than 100 in my Khalasar, with all their goods and horses." "It is no matter," Belwaz adds. "We take all." The fat man hires 3 ships from his little silver-hair queen. "I shall tell my people to make ready to depart at once, but the ships that bring me home must bear different names." "What names would you prefer?" "Vhagar," Daenerys tells him, "Meraxus, and Balerion. Paint the names on their hulls in golden letters, 3 feet high, Arstan. I want every man who sees them to know the dragons are returned." So, this chapter is very different from the TV show, where she loots and raids Zario's house before leaving Qarth, but instead is forced to leave. Also, how didn't anyone in Qarth or Zaro just kill Daenerys and her Khalasar and take her dragons, since they are literally the most valuable objects in the world? Finally, not including strong Belwaz was such a mistake, since he could have definitely brought some humor to the Daenerys plotline in the show. But instead, they gave that role to Daario. Chapter 64. The heads are coated in tar to delay decomposition. Each day, Arya has to walk beneath them on her way to fetch water for Roose Bolton's basin. They are positioned facing outward, so she never sees their faces, but she enjoys imagining that one of them belongs to Joffrey. As Arya makes her way to the well, Goodwife Ambel grabs hold of her arm. The water spills over the sides, drenching Arbel's legs. "You did that intentionally," the woman shrieks. "What do you want?" Arya wriggles in her hold. Ambel has been partially deranged ever since they decapitated Hara. Ambel gestures towards Pia. "When this Northman falls, you'll be where she is." "Let me go." Ambel tightens her grip. "He will fall too. Harrenhal pulls them all down in the end. Lord Tywin's won now. He'll be marching back with all his power, and then it'll be his turn to punish the disloyal. And don't think he won't know what you did." The old woman laughs. Arya swings the bucket and throws the water all over Ambel. "Don't ever touch me," Arya shouts, "or I'll kill you. You get away." "The Lannisters are coming. See what happens when they get here," Ambel exclaims. At times, Arya wishes she had chosen to journey across the narrow sea with Jack and Hagar. She still possesses the foolish coin he had given her, a small rusted piece of iron no larger than a penny. One side bears strange encryptions she couldn't decipher, whilst the other displays a worn-out depiction of a man's head, with all his features rubbed off. He claims it holds great value, but that is likely another falsehood, just like his name and even his appearance. The Lord's bedchamber is filled when she arrives. Qyburn is present, and Grim Walton, along with a dozen Freys, all siblings, half-siblings, and relatives. Roose Bolton lies in bed, unclothed. Leeches are clung to the insides of his arms and legs, and speckle his pale chest. "We must not allow Lord Tywin to trap us here at Harrenhal," Sir Aenys Frey announces. "The castle is so large it requires an army to hold it, and once surrounded we cannot feed an army, nor can we hope to lay in sufficient supplies. The country is ash, the villages given over to wolves, the harvest burnt or stolen." "I do not mean to be besieged here." Roose Bolton speaks in such a soft voice. "What then?" Sir Jared Frey insists. "Lord Tywin is many leagues from here," Bolton said calmly. "He has many matters yet to settle at King's Landing. He will not march on Harrenhal for some time." Sir Aenys shakes his head in disagreement. "You do not know the Lannisters as we do, my lord. King Stannis thought that Lord Tywin was 1,000 leagues away as well, and it undid him." "I am not a man to be undone, sir." "If Lord Tywin could defeat a seasoned man like Stannis Baratheon, what chance will our boy king have against him?" Sir Harris High interrupts. "The war is lost. King Robb must be made to see that," Sir Hoston admits. "His Grace has defeated the Lannisters every time he has faced them in battle," Roose Bolton affirms. "He has lost the North," insists Hoston Frey. "He has lost Winterfell. His brothers are dead." Arya is momentarily breathless. Were Bran and Rickon really dead? Bran is injured, and Rickon is just a child. She has to muster all her strength to stay calm and quiet. Just like Syrio Forel has taught her, she fights back tears, refusing to believe it. King Robb must make his peace with the Lannisters. He must put off his crown and bend the knee, little as he may like it, Sir Hoston says bluntly. "I shall think on all you've said," Roose Bolton smiles. The Freys bid their farewells and depart, leaving behind only Qyburn, Steelshanks Walton, and Arya. Lord Bolton tells Arya to approach him. "I am bled sufficiently. Nan, you may remove the leeches." "At once, my lord." Delicately, she plucks the leeches from the lord's body, feeling their slimy and engorged forms between her fingers. "I will hunt today," Roose Bolton makes an announcement. "Is it safe, my lord?" Qyburn asks. "Only 3 days past, Septon Utt's men were attacked by wolves. They came right into his camp, not 5 yards away from the fire, and killed 2 horses. It is wolves I mean to hunt. I can scarcely sleep at night for the howling." It is said that direwolves once roamed the north in great packs of 100 or more, and feared neither man nor mammoth. But that was long ago, and in another land. It is queer to see the common wolves of the south so bold. The Lord and Maester exit the room without a second glance at her. Arya picks up the letter and brings it to the hearth, using a poker to stir the flames back to life. The parchment bursts into flames. Arya kneels by the fire, tears streaming down her face. She then proceeds to clean the Lord's chambers for the next few hours. Sir Gregor, she breathes. Dunson, Polliver, Raff the Sweetling, the Tickler, she calls out one time. The Hound, the next. Sir Ilan, Sir Meryn, Queen Cersei. She faces the towering trunk of an oak tree, thrusting forward with determination to pierce it, uttering, Joffrey, 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 with a forceful grunt. She stands in front of the heart tree and raises her sword in a gesture of respect, speaking the words Vala Maguris to the ancient gods of the north. As Arya makes her way across the yard towards the bathhouse, the hunting party has returned with 9 wolf carcasses. Lord Bolton has instructed for their skins to be fashioned into a blanket for his bed. Upon noticing Arya's gaze, he speaks. Nan, I want a flagon of hot spice wine. I took a chill in the woods. See that it doesn't get cold. At once, my lord. Hot Pie is in the midst of preparing oatcakes as she steps into the kitchen. My lord wants his supper and hot spice wine to wash it down, Arya announces, and he doesn't want it cold. When she enters, Roose Bolton is sitting by the fireplace, engrossed in a voluminous book. She positions the meal beside him. I will have no further need of you tonight, he says. My lord, she asks, will you take me with you when you leave Harrenhal? Did I give you leave to question me, Nan? No, my lord, she lowers her eyes. You should not have spoken then, should you? No, my lord. I will answer you, just this once. I mean to give Harrenhal to Lord Vargo when I return to the north. You shall remain here, with him. But I don't, she starts. He cuts her off. I am not in the habit of being questioned by servants, Nan. Must I have your tongue out? No, my lord. Then I'll hear no more from you? No, my lord. Go then. I shall forget this insolence. Arya ventures into the darkness of the courtyard. For a while, silence reigns, broken only by the wind, water, and the rustling of leaves and branches. Suddenly, in the distance, past the Godswood, the eerie towers and the colossal stone walls of Harrenhal, a wolf's mournful howl echoes from somewhere in the world. Then, almost imperceptibly, it is as if she could hear her father's voice. When the snows fall and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, he said. But there is no pack, she softly murmurs to the ancient weirwood tree. Bran and Rickon have perished, Sansa is held captive by the Lannisters, and Jon has embarked on his journey to the Wall. Upon entering the forge, she discovers that the fires have been extinguished and the doors are closed and barred. She decides to enter through a window. Gendry is sharing a mattress with 2 other apprentice smiths. She covers his mouth with her hand and pinches him, causing him to wake up. Please, she whispers, removing her hand and pointing towards the door. He follows her down from the loft. What do you want now? Gendry says in a low, angry voice. A sword. Black Thumb keeps all the blades locked up. I told you that 100 times. Is this for Lord Leech? For me. Break the lock with your hammer. They'll break my hand, he grumbles. Or worse. Not if you run with me. Run and they'll catch you and kill you. They'll do you worse. Lord Bolton is giving Harrenhal to the bloody murmurs. He told me so. Gendry brushes away the strands of his dark hair from his eyes. So when Vargo hoats the Lord, he's going to cut off the feet of all the servants to keep them from running away. The smiths too. That's only a story, he says scornfully. No, it's true. I heard Lord Vargo say so, she lies. Go to the kitchens and wake Hot Pie. He'll do what you say. We'll need bread or oatcakes or something. You get the swords and I'll do the horses. We'll meet near the postern in the east wall, behind the Tower of Ghosts. No one ever comes there. You won't forget the swords? I never said I'd come. No, but if you do, you won't forget the swords, he frowns. No, I guess I won't. Arya returns to her cell and carefully dresses herself in multiple layers of undergarments, warm stockings, and her cleanest tunic. Moving as silently as a shadow, she descends the stairs once more. On the table, next to the remnants of Lord Bolton's meal, lies his dagger, so she decides to take it as well, just in case Gendry lost his nerve. A horse lets out a soft neigh as she enters the dimly lit stables. The stable hands are all fast asleep. She nudges one with her foot until he stirs and mumbles. Was? Lord Bolton requires 3 horses, saddled and bridled. 3, you say? 1, 2, 3, hunting horses, fast and sure foot. The most challenging part is leading the horses through the castle. Whenever possible, she stays in the shadows of the curtain wall, making it nearly impossible for the sentries on the ramparts above to spot her unless they look straight down. She catches sight of Gendry and Hot Pie. "Here I am," she says. "Be quiet, or they'll hear you." "There's a guard on that postern," says Gendry quietly. "You stay here with the horses," Arya replies. "I'll get rid of him. Come quick when I call." Gendry nods. She does not attempt to conceal herself, but instead approaches the guard openly, almost as if she has been sent by Lord Bolton himself. When she finally stands before him, she pulls back her cloak to reveal the flayed man's sigil on her breast. "Lord Bolton sent me." "At this hour? Why for?" "He told me to give all his guards a silver piece for their good service." The word appears as if from thin air. "Silver, you say? Give it over then." Her hand reaches beneath her garment, retrieving the coin Jaqen had bestowed upon her. Extending her arm, she releases the coin, watching it fall from her grasp. The guard goes down on one knee to retrieve the coin. Then Arya takes her dagger and draws it across his throat. "Vala Maguris," she murmurs softly as he passed away. After he became still, she retrieves the coin. Pie and Gendry arrive with the horses. "You killed him," Hot Pie gasps. "What did you think I would do?" So, in this chapter, Roose says he wants to go hunt wolves, which relates to the theory that the Boltons used to hunt and flay Starks in wolf bodies, since Starks are wargs or werewolves and Boltons are vampires, and the two sides are mortal enemies. Now, Arya's murder of this guard is pretty brutal and definitely shows that Arya is not a morally good character like the show tried to portray her as. Also, you can see the first hints of the Frey and Boltons planning to betray Robb start in this chapter. It's a great foreshadow of the Red Wedding. Chapter 65. In the throne room, King Joffrey is seated on the Iron Throne with rubies and a heavy golden crown on his head. Sansa is making her way through the crowd of knights, squires, and wealthy townspeople to the front of the gallery just as Lord Tywin Lannister enters. Joffrey requests his grandfather to take charge of governing the realm, and Lord Tywin graciously accepts the weight responsibly, until your grace comes of age. Joffrey securely fastens the hand's chain of office around his neck. Lord Tywin then takes his place at the council table next to the Queen. Cersei signals for the ceremonies to proceed. Mace Tyrell, the Lord of Highgarden, is given the esteemed position of honour. His son, Sir Garland, then approaches the king. "I have a maiden sister, Marjorie, the delight of our house. She was wed to Renly Baratheon, but Lord Renly went to war before the marriage could be consummated, so she remains innocent. Marjorie has heard tales of your wisdom, courage, and chivalry, and has come to love you from afar. I beseech you to send for her, to take her hand in marriage, and to wed your house to mine for all time." King Joffrey glances around. "Sir Garland, your sister's beauty is famed throughout the Seven Kingdoms, but I am promised to another. A king must keep his word." Queen Cersei rises from her seat with a swish of her gown. "Your Grace, in the judgment of your small council, it would be neither proper nor wise for you to wed the daughter of a man beheaded for treason. A girl whose brother is in open rebellion against the throne even now. Sire, your counselors beg you, for the good of the realm, set Sansa Stark aside. The Lady Marjorie will make a far more suitable queen." Joffrey raises a hand. "Mother, but I took a holy vow." The High Septon steps forward. "Your Grace, the gods hold betrothal solemn, but your father, King Robert of blessed memory, made this pact before the Starks of Winterfell had revealed their falseness. Their crimes against the realm have freed you from any promise you might have made. So far as the faith is concerned, there is no valid marriage contract twixt you and Sansa Stark." The crowd chants, "Marjorie, Marjorie," in unison. "The gods are good. I am free to heed my heart. I will wed your sweet sister, and gladly, sir." Sansa feels dizzy. She realizes that she is liberated. She wouldn't have to endure his kisses, give up her virginity to him, or bear his children. She felt sorry for Marjorie Tyrell, who would have to bear all those burdens instead. She senses the gaze of others fixed upon her. "I will not have my son humiliated," Cersei says to her. "Do you hear me?" "Yes, but if I'm not to be queen, what will become of me?" "That will need to be determined. For the moment, you shall remain here at court as our ward. I want to go home." The queen is irritated by that. "You should have learnt by now, none of us get the things we want." A significant lordship has been bestowed upon Sir Lancel Lannister. Joffrey has granted him the lands, castle, and rights of House Dari, whose last young lord died during the conflicts in the Riverlands. Sir Lancel seems reluctant to accept the title. Rumours circulate that his injury could result in the loss of his arm or even his life. There are whispers that the imp is also on the brink of death, having suffered a severe head wound. The herald then announces, "Lord Peter Baelish." Littlefinger smiles and kneels in front of the Iron Throne. Sansa has not heard of any particular heroic deeds performed by Littlefinger during the battle. It appears that he is to be rewarded nonetheless. Sir Kevan Lannister rises to his feet. "It is the wish of the King's Grace that his loyal counsellor, Peter Baelish, be rewarded for faithful service to crown and realm. Be it known that Lord Baelish is granted the castle of Harrenhal, with all its attendant lands and incomes, there to make his seat and rule henceforth as Lord Paramount of the Trident. Peter Baelish and his sons and grandsons shall hold and enjoy these honours until the end of time, and all the lords of the Trident shall do him homage as their rightful liege. The King's hand and the small council consent." "I thank you humbly, your grace. I suppose this means I'll need to see about getting some sons and grandsons." Joffrey chuckles and the court joins in. Harrenhal is known to be cursed, and the Lannisters don't even hold it currently. Moreover, the Lords of the Trident are loyal to Riverrun and House Tully, as well as the King of the North. They would never accept Littlefinger as their lord unless they are forced to. On that day, more than 600 new knights are created. They have spent the entire night in the Great Sept of Baelor. It is a lengthy process, as only 3 members of the White Sword Brotherhood are present to perform the dubbing. Mandon Moore has died in battle. The Hound has disappeared. Aerys Oakheart is in Dorne with Princess Marcilla, and Jaime Lannister is held captive by Robb. This leaves the Kingsguard with Balon Swan, Mirren Trand, and Osmond Kettleback. Now the tables have turned, and the prisoners are brought in. Among them are esteemed lords and noble knights, the grumpier Lord Celtigar, known as the Red Crab, Sir Bonifer the Good, Lord Estamont, even older than Celtigar, Lord Varna, Sir Mark Mullendore, and others. The individuals who have altered their loyalty during the conflict are only required to pledge their allegiance to Joffrey, whereas those who have fought for Stannis until the very end are obligated to express themselves. The outcome of their fate is determined by their spoken words. If they humbly seek forgiveness for their acts of treason and vow to serve faithfully from that point forward, Joffrey gracefully accepts them back into the realm of the King's Peace, reinstating their lands and rights. Nevertheless, a few individuals remain resolute and unyielding. "Do not imagine this is done, boy. The light of Lord protects King Stannis, now and always. All your swords and all your scheming shall not save you when his hour comes. Your hour is come right now." So Ilyn Payne is summoned by Joffrey to remove the man and execute him by beheading. However, as soon as the man is taken away, a knight calls out, "Stannis is the true king! A monster sits the Iron Throne, an abomination born of incest." "Be silent," Sir Kevan Lannister bellows. The knight raises his voice instead. "Joffrey is the black worm eating the heart of the realm. Darkness was his father, and death his mother. Destroy him before he corrupts you all. Destroy them all, Queen Or and King Worm, vile dwarf and whispering spider, the false flowers, save yourselves." One of the gold cloaks knocks the man off his feet, but he continues to shout, "The scouring fire will come. King Stannis will return." Joffrey lurches to his feet. "I'm king! Kill him now! I command it!" So Meryn Trant advances with his sword drawn. The execution is swift and merciless. The gold cloaks apprehend the knight by his arm. "No, king," he exclaims once more as Meryn thrusts his longsword into his chest. As night falls, Sansa wraps herself in a cloak and heads towards the Godswood. Dontos patiently stands under the shimmering moonlight amidst the lush foliage. "Why so sad-faced?" Sansa asks him. "You were there. You heard. Joff put me aside. He's done with me. He's—" "The Queen will never let you go. Never. You are too valuable a hostage. And Joffrey, sweetling, he is still king. If he wants you in his bed, he will have you. Only now it will be bastards he plants in your womb instead of true-born sons." "No," Sansa says, shocked. "He let me go. He—" So Dontos plants a slobbery kiss on her ear. "Be brave. I swore to see you home, and now I can. The day has been chosen." "When?" Sansa asks. "When will we go?" "The night of Joffrey's wedding. After the feast, all the necessary arrangements have been made. The Red Keep will be full of strangers, half the court will be drunk, and the other half will be helping Joffrey bed his bride. For a little while, you will be forgotten, and the confusion will be our friend." "The wedding won't be for a moon's turn yet. Margaery Tyrell is at Highgarden. They've only now sent for her." "You've waited so long. Be patient a while longer. Here, I have something for you." So Dontos fumbles in his pouch and draws out a silvery spider web, dangling it between his thick fingers. It is a hairnet of fine-spun silver, the strands so thin and delicate the net seems to weigh no more than a breath of air when Sansa takes it in her fingers. "What stones are these?" "Black amethyst from Ashai, the rarest kind, a deep true purple by daylight." "It's very lovely," Sansa says. "Lovelier than you know, sweet child. It's magic, you see. It's justice you hold. It's vengeance for your father." Dontos leans close and kisses her again. "It's home." The show had Littlefinger tell Sansa all this, but having it be Dontos is so much smarter. Moreover, this exchange and the necklace shows that George R.R. Martin already had the purple wedding planned out by a clash of kings. Further evidence for this comes from the fact that Joffrey cuts himself on the Iron Throne, which means he will not sit long. This is a superstition that has existed since the time of Maegor the Cruel and seems to continue until this day. When Joffrey orders the death of the Stannis loyalist, he chopped down with his hand, a furious, angry gesture, and screeched in pain when his arm brushed against one of the sharp metal fangs that surrounded him. The bright crimson salmon of his sleeve turned a darker shade of red as his blood soaked through it. "Mother!" he wailed, with every eye on the king. Somehow the man on the floor wrestled a spear away from one of the gold cloaks and used it to push himself back to his feet. "The throne denies him!" he cried. "He is no king!" Cersei was running toward the throne, but Lord Tywin remained still as stone. He had only to raise a finger, and Sir Meryn Trant moved forward with drawn sword. The end was quick and brutal. The gold cloak seized the knight by the arms. "No, king!" he cried again, as Sir Meryn drove the point of his longsword through his chest. Again, Joffrey would die not too long after this. Chapter 66. Maester Luwin approaches Theon upon the sighting of the scouts outside the fortress. "My lord prince," he says, "you must yield." "There has been no reply from my uncle?" "None," the maester says, "nor from your father on Pike." "Send more birds." "It will not serve." "By the time the birds reach, send them! Or do you want me dead? Is that it, Luwin? The truth now." "My order serves." "Yes, but who?" "The realm," Maester Luwin says. "And Winterfell. Theon, once I taught you sums and letters, history and warcraft. I will not claim to bear you any great love, no, but I cannot hate you either. Even if I did, so long as you hold Winterfell, I am bound by oath to give you counsel. So now I counsel you to yield. You have no hope of holding here," the maester goes on. "If your lord father meant to send you aid, he would have done so by now. It is the neck that concerns him. The battle for the north will be fought amidst the ruins of Moat Caitlin. Soon enough, they will come over your walls in 100 places at once. You may be able to hold the keep for a time, but the castle will fall within the hour. You would do better to open your gates and ask for mercy. I know what kind of mercy they have for me. There is a way. I am Ironborn," Theon reminds him. "I have my own way. What choice have they left me? No, don't answer. I've heard enough of your counsel. Go and send those birds as I commanded." as you command." They made a pitiful small assembly. The Iron Men were few, the yard large. "The Northmen will be on us before nightfall," he tells them. Wex assists him in getting ready for the upcoming battle. After equipping himself with weapons and armor, Theon ascends the watchtower to observe his impending fate. The soldiers from the north are strategically positioning themselves to surround the castle. Assessing their numbers proves challenging. There are at least 1,000, maybe even twice that amount. In contrast, Theon's forces consist of only 17 individuals. The enemy has also brought catapults and scorpions. Theon notices the banners of Cerwyn, Talhart, Flint, Karstark, and Hornwoods through Maester Luwin's Myrish lens tube. However, there are no Glovers, Boltons from the Dreadfort, or Umbers descending from the shadow of the hill. Shortly after, young Clay Cerwyn arrives at the gates with a peace banner, signalling Sir Roderick Castle's desire to negotiate with Theon Turncloak. "I shall be out shortly," he shouts. He makes his way to the gatehouse, wearing his crown atop his head. "Sir Roderick," Theon reins to a halt. "It grieves me that we must meet as foes. My own grief is that I must wait a while to hang you." The old knight spits onto the ground. "Theon Turncloak." "I am a Greyjoy of Pike," Theon reminds him. "The cloak my father swaddled me in bore a kraken, not a direwolf. For 10 years, you have been a ward of Stark. Hostage and prisoner, I call it. Then perhaps Lord Eddard should have kept you chained to a dungeon wall. Instead, he raised you among his own sons, the sweet boys you have butchered. And to my undying shame, I trained you in the arts of war. I came out to parley, not to suffer your insults. Say what you have to say, old man. What would you have of me?" "2 things, the old man states. "Winterfell and your life. Command your men to open the gates and lay down their arms. Those who murdered no children shall be free to walk away, but you shall be held for King Robb's justice." "Robb will never look on Winterfell again," Theon promises. "He will break himself on Moat Caitlin as every southern army has done for 10,000 years. We hold the north now, sir. Here are my terms. You have until evenfall to disperse. Those who swear fealty to Balon Greyjoy as their king, and to myself as Prince of Winterfell, will be confirmed in their rights and properties and suffer no harm. Those who defy us will be destroyed." Sir Roderick shakes his head. "I have near 2,000 men with me, and if the tales be true, you have no more than 50. I have something better than men." He lifts his hand above his head, the sign Black Lauren has been instructed to keep an eye out for. "This is craven," Sir Roderick says. "To use a child so... This is despicable. Theon is threatening to hang Beth Castle, Roderick's daughter. No harm will be done your Beth, so long as you..." Sir Roderick doesn't give him a chance to finish. "I gave you the chance to save your men and die with some small shred of honor, Turncloak. I should have known that was too much to ask of a child killer. I ought to cut you down here and now and put an end to your lies and deceits. By the gods, I should. Forswear your oath and murder me, and you will watch your little Beth strangle at the end of a rope. Beth is the last of your blood." The old knight stands tall. "I offer myself in my daughter's place. Release her, and take me as your hostage. Surely the Castellan of Winterfell is worth more than a child. Not to me. No, I'll keep the girl, and keep her safe. So long as you do as I've commanded you, her life is in your hands." "Gods be good, Theon. How can you do this? You know I must attack. Have sworn. If this host is still in arms before my gate when the sun sets, Beth will hang," Theon argues. Without waiting for a response, he swiftly makes his way back towards the castle. A fire has been prepared for Theon in Ned Stark's bedchamber. Theon pours himself a cup of robust red wine. "Prince Theon!" There is a sudden shout across the ward. "The Northmen!" A wave of intense unease washes. Is it the attack? Maester Luwin clutches his arm. There's still time. Raise a peace banner. "They're fighting!" Crom says urgently. "More men came up, hundreds of them, and at first they made to join the others, but now they've fallen on them." Is it Asha? Had she come to save him after all? "No, these are Northmen, I tell you, with a bloody man on their banner." "I'll see this for myself," Theon says. As they arrive at the battlements, lifeless bodies and wounded horses are scattered across the market square outside the gates. The sounds of shouts and cries echo through the chilly autumn atmosphere. Black Lauren emerges next to him and remains quiet for a while. Horsemen emerge from the billowing smoke. Leading them is a knight clad in ominous dark armor. "Are you friend or foe?" Black Lauren asks. "Would a foe bring such fine gifts?" Redhelm gestures to 3 lifeless bodies in front of the gates. "The old Castellan," says Black Lauren, "with Leopold Tallheart and Clay Serwyn. Open the gates for our friends." The men from the Dreadfort traverse the moat and pass through the inner gates. "How many men did you lose?" Theon asks Redhelm as he dismounts. 20 or 30? "So Roderick had you 5-1. Aye, but he thought us friends. A common mistake. When the old fool gave me his hand, I took half his arm instead. Then I let him see my face." The man put both hands to his helm and lifted it off his head, holding it in the crook of his arm. "Reek," Theon said, disquieted. "How did a serving man get such fine armor?" The man laughs. "The wretch is dead." He steps closer. Ramsay explains how he and Reek swapped clothes, and it was Reek they killed, not the bastard of Bolton. "And now, my sweet prince, there was a woman promised me if I brought you 200 men. Well, I brought 3 times as many, and no green boys nor field hands neither, but my father's own garrison." Theon has given his word. "Harrig," he says, "go to the kennels and bring Palla out for Ramsay." His plump lips display a smile, yet his pale eyes remain devoid of any joy. "Snow," my wife called me before she ate her fingers, but I say Bolton. His smile curdles. "So you'd offer me a kennel girl for my good service. Is that the way of it?" Theon finds the tone of his voice displeasing, just as he finds the disrespectful stares from the men of the Dreadfort distasteful. "She was what was promised." "She smells of dog shit. I've had enough of bad smells as it happens. I think I'll have your bed warmer instead. What do you call her? Kyra?" "Are you mad?" Theon says angrily. "I'll have you." The bastard's forceful backhand strikes him directly, causing his cheekbone to fracture with a horrifying sound under the hardened steel. The entire world disappears into a deafening crimson agony. Shortly after, Theon is lying on the ground. He turns over onto his stomach and tasted a mouthful of blood. He attempts to call out, "Close the gates!" but it proves futile. The soldiers from the Dreadfort have already taken down Red Rolf and Kennard, with more of them flooding in. A deafening noise fills his ears, and terror surrounds him. Black Lauren draws his sword, but he is quickly outnumbered by 4 assailants. Ulf falls with a crossbow bolt piercing his abdomen, and Maester Luwin is impaled by a spear from a knight on horseback, who then rides over him. "Save me the phrase," the bastard shouts, "and burn the rest. Burn it all." The last thing Theon sees is his horse burning. Honestly, compared to what happened in the show, this makes way more sense as to why Winterfell was sacked. Also, if only Theon had not let Ramsay and his men in, he and his Ironborn might have been able to hold out against Ramsay's smaller force. Moreover, Ramsay ordering the Freys be spared was very smart on his part, since they would help ensure the Frey-Bolton alliance later on. Chapter 67. Tyrion dreams of blood, excrement, and charred flesh in his dreams. The sounds of men groaning and whimpering surround him. Upon attempting to shit, he realizes that he has soiled his own bed. Too feeble to utter a sound, he remains lying in his own waste and closes his eyes. His longing for Shay remains unfulfilled as she is absent. It is dark when he wakes again. At first he can't see anything, but after a time, the vague outlines of a bed appears around him. He is in his own bed. The pain stabs through him when he struggles to lift his hand. Upon awakening, Tyrion finds the draperies pulled back and Podrick Payne standing before him, holding a candle. As Tyrion tries to call out to him, all that escapes his lips is a muffled moan. His movements are strained and clumsy as he reaches up to touch his face, only to feel stiff linen where there should have been flesh, lips, and teeth. The lower part of his face is tightly wrapped in bandages, covered by a hardened plaster mask with openings for breathing and eating. Shortly after, Pod returns once more. This time, he is accompanied by a stranger, a maester in chains and robes. "My lord, you must be still," the man murmurs. "You are grievously hurt. You will do yourself great injury. Are you thirsty?" He gives an uncomfortable nod. The maester places a curved copper funnel into the feeding hole above his mouth and slowly pours a liquid down his throat. Tyrion swallows, barely registering the taste. It is only after the fact that he recognizes the substance as milk of the poppy. As the maester takes out the funnel, he is already drifting off into slumber. In his dream, he finds himself amidst a grand celebration, a triumphant feast held within a magnificent hall. The men around him raise their goblets high, honoring him as a true hero. Even his father wears a proud smile, acknowledging his achievement. And there, eagerly awaiting his embrace, stands Shae. However, upon awakening, he finds himself in a dimly lit, desolate room. A sense of unease washes over him, as if something is amiss. Once again, he is left to his own devices, devoid of any company. Struggling to rise, he pushes aside the covers, only to be met with excruciating pain that forces him to relent, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. The agony is not limited to his face alone. His entire right side throbs relentlessly, and a sharp pain shoots through his chest whenever he attempts to lift his arm. It becomes apparent to him that this is not his own chamber, nor is this the Tower of the Hand. Someone has taken the liberty of relocating him. In that moment, the maester approaches Tyrion, prompting him to demand the removal of his bandages. "But I'm not to... That would be most unwise, my lord. You are not yet healed. The queen would do it." The man carries a lengthy knife with a thin saw-toothed blade. Beside him are a basin of water, a stack of soft clothes, and multiple flasks. The maester instructs him to remain perfectly motionless. He senses the blade cutting through the hardened linen, mere inches away from his neck. Shortly thereafter, he senses a refreshing breeze against his face. The maester throws away the bandages, which are still stiff with medicine. "Be still now. I must wash out the wound. This is like to sting some," the maester warns. It inflicts more than just a sting. It leaves a trail of fire running across Tyrion's face and forces a searing rod up his nostrils. Despite the intense pain, he somehow refrains from letting out a scream. "It would have been wiser to leave the mask in place until the flesh had nipped, my lord. Still, it looks clean. Good, good. When we found you down in that cellar among the dead and dying, your wounds were filthy. One of your ribs was broken, doubtless you can feel it. The blow of some mace, perhaps, or a fall, it's hard to say. And you took an arrow in the arm, there where it joins the shoulder. It showed signs of mortification, and for a time I feared you might lose the limb, but we treated it with boiling wine and maggots. And now it seems to be healing clean. Your name." His throat is raw. "I am Maester Balabar." The maester presents Tyrion with a flask of wine and a delicate silvered mirror. Perched on the bed's edge, he carefully fills half a goblet with wine and brings it to Tyrion's swollen lips. "More," he requests once the cup is drained. Maester Balabar obliges and pours once more. After consuming the contents of the second cup, Tyrion Lannister senses a renewed vigor within himself, ready to confront his reflection. He turned over the glass and did not know whether he ought to laugh or cry. The gash was long and crooked, starting a hair under his left eye and ending on the right side of his jaw. 3/4 of his nose was gone, and a chunk of his lip. Someone had sewn the torn flesh together with catgut, and their clumsy stitches were still in place across the seam of raw, red, half-healed flesh. "Pretty," he croaked, flinging the glass aside. He now recalls the events vividly. The bridge made of boats, Sir Mandon Moore, a hand, and a sword swiftly approaching his face. Had he not instinctively pulled back, that strike would have severed the top of his head. Jaime consistently warned that Sir Mandon the most perilous member of the King's Guard, as his lifeless, vacant eyes reveal no indication of his intentions. He should have never trusted his place in any of them. He had already discerned that Sir Meryn and Sir Boris were loyal to his sister, and later Sir Osmond as well. However, he had allowed himself to believe that the others had not completely forsaken their sense of honour. Undoubtedly, Cersei must have bribed Sir Brandon to ensure he never returned from the battle. Tyrion gently grazes his face, tugging at the resilient skin with his sturdy, robust fingers, yet another present bestowed upon him by his beloved sibling. "My lord, there will most like be a scar," the maester says. "Most like?" His snort of laughter turns into a wince of pain. "Teach me not to play with axes." His grin feels tight. "Where are we? What place?" "Ah, you are in Maegor's Holdfast, my lord, a chamber over the Queen's ballroom. Her Grace wanted you kept close, so she might watch over you herself." "Return me," Tyrion commands. "Own bed, own chambers." "Your own..." "My lord, that would not be possible. The King's hand has taken up residence in your former chambers. I am King's hand." Maester Balabor looks distressed. "No, my lord, You are wounded, near death. Your Lord Father has taken up those duties now. Lord Tywin, Here? Since the night of the battle, Lord Tywin saved us all. The small folk say it was King Renly's ghost, but wiser men know better. It was your father and Lord Tyrell, with the Knight of Flowers and Lord Littlefinger. They rode through the ashes and took the usurper Stannis in the rear. It was a great victory, and now Lord Tywin has settled into the Tower of the Hand to help his grace set the realms to right. Gods be praised," Tyrion repeats hollowly. "I want my squire, Podpayne. The boy, the odd boy, Podrick Payne. You go. Send him." "As you will, my lord." Maester Balabor bobs his head and hurries out. Later, Podrick Payne enters the bedchamber quietly. "My lord, I meant to stay by you, but the maester sent me away." "Where's Bronn?" "They made him a knight." Even frowning hurts. "Find him. Bring him." "As you say, my lord." "Bronn." Tyrion seizes Pod's wrist. "Sir Mandon?" The boy flinches. "I never meant to..." "Dead? You're certain? Dead?" "Drowned. Good. Say nothing. Of him, of me, any of it. Nothing." Once his squire departs, Tyrion's remaining strength dissipates entirely. He reclines and gently shuts his eyes, wondering if he'll dream of Tysha again. "I wonder how she'd like my face now," he thought bitterly. So, not much happens in this chapter. We get some dreams and time spent on Tyrion's significant injuries, which the TV show completely played down, except for a cool scar on Tyrion's face. Again, we definitely don't think it was Cersei who ordered Mandon Moore to kill Tyrion, mostly because killing Tyrion in such a crucial battle would be self-sabotage for Cersei, and even though she wants Tyrion dead, the death of the Hand of the King in the heat of battle might sway the City Watch to surrender to Stannis. So no, Cersei did not order Mandon Moore to kill Tyrion. Chapter 68. Qhorin Halfhand and Jon Snow are the sole survivors among the 5 rangers who have escaped from the Skirling Pass and have been venturing back into the vast blue-grey expanse of the Frostfangs. The days and nights blend together seamlessly. They rest in their saddles and pause briefly to nourish and hydrate the horses before resuming their journey. Stone Snake proposes the idea of patiently waiting for the pursuers and catching them off guard upon their arrival. Qhorin refuses. "If any man in the Night's Watch can make it through the Frostfangs alone and afoot, it is you, brother. Make for the fist. Tell Mormont what Jon saw and how. Tell him that the old powers are waking, that he faces giants and wargs and worse. Tell him that the trees have eyes again." "Is your sword sharp, Jon Snow?" Qhorin Halfhand asks across the flickering fire. "My sword is Valyrian steel. The old bear gave it to me." "Do you remember the words of your vow?" "Yes." "Say them again with me, Jon Snow." Jon recites the Night's Watch vow before stating, I'm not afraid to die." "It may not be so easy as that, Jon." "What do you mean?" "If we are taken, you must yield." "Yield?" He blinks in disbelief. "They only spare oathbreakers, those who joined them, like Mance Rayder. And you." "No." He shakes his head. "Never. I won't." "You will. I command it of you." "Command it? But our honor means no more than our lives, so long as the realm is safe." "Are you a man of the Night's Watch?" "Yes, but—" "There is no but, Jon Snow. You are, or you are not." Jon sits straight. "I am." "Then hear me. If we are taken, you will go over to them, as the wildling girl you captured once urged you. They may demand that you cut your cloak to ribbons, that you swear them an oath on your father's grave, that you curse your brothers and your Lord Commander. You must not bore. Whatever is asked of you, do as they bid you. But in your heart, remember who and what you are. Ride with them, eat with them, fight with them, for as long as it takes, and watch. Your wolf saw the diggings in the valley of the Milkwater. What they seek in such a bleak and distant place, did they find it? That is what you must learn before you return to Lord Mormont and your brothers. That is the duty I lay on you, Jon Snow." "I'll do as you say," Jon says reluctantly. "Now we ride." "Ride? It is dark and the night is cold. Ride where?" "Back. The fire will draw them past, I hope. Come, brother." "Keep close to the cliffs. There's a crook a half-mile, on that will hide us," Corran suggests. Fallen rocks obstructs their path partway up the mountain, where a portion of the cliff has collapsed. There seems to be no escape. While he and Corran could potentially scale the cliffs, it would be impossible to do so with the horses. They wouldn't last long on foot. "Here is as good a place as any to make a stand," Corran declares. "The mouth of the cave shelters us from above, and they cannot get behind us without passing through the mountain." A hunting horn resounds across the mountains, followed shortly by the sound of hounds baying. "They will be with us soon," Corran announces. "Keep your wolf in hand." "Ghost to me," Jon calls. The wildlings surge over a ridge less than a mile in the distance. Their hounds lead the way, growling. Ghost bares his teeth, his fur standing on end. "Easy," Jon murmurs. "Stay." The hunters cautiously advance. Jon tallies a total of 14 individuals, accompanied by 8 canines. Corran unsheaths his longsword. The story of how he had mastered the art of left-handed combat after losing half of his right hand had become a legendary tale. It is rumored that he wields a blade with even greater skill now than he did in the past. Jon stands beside the formidable ranger, drawing Longclaw from its scabbard. The hunters come to a stop 10 yards below the cave entrance, with their leader advancing forward by himself. "Rattleshirt," Corran calls out. "To crows, I be the Lord of Bones." Corran snorts. "I see no lord, only a dog dressed in chicken bones who rattles when he rides." The wildling hisses in anger. "It's your bones I'll be rattling soon, half-hand. I'll boil the flesh off you and make a breenie from your ribs. I'll carve your teeth to cast me runes and eat me oaten porridge from your skull. If you want my bones, come get them." Rattleshirt appears hesitant to do so. However, a different member of his group maneuvered a horse next to him, a spearwife among the group of warrior women. "We are 4 and 10 to 2, crows, and 8 dogs to your wolf," she called. "Fight or run, you are ours." "Show them," commands Rattleshirt. The lady extends her hand into a sack stained with blood and retrieves a prize. She suspends Eben's head by his ear. "He died brave," she says. Corran gives Jon a long look. "Remember your orders." Rattleshirt bellows over the clamour. "Feather them!" "No!" Jon slipped out of the word before the archers could release their arrows. "We yield!" "They warned me bastard blood was craven," he hears Corran half-hand say coldly. "I see it is so. Run to your new masters, coward." Jon's face turned red as he makes his way down the slope towards Rattleshirt, who is mounted on his horse. The free folk have no need of cravens. "He is no craven," one of the archers says, revealing her shaggy red hair. "This is the bastard of Winterfell, who spared me. Let him live." Jon meets Ygritte's eyes and has no words. "Let him die," the Lord of Bones insists. "The Black Crow is a tricksy bird. I trust him not." "You told me Mance would take me, and he will," Ygritte says. "Mance is not here," Rattleshirt says. "Ragwile, gut him." "I'll do whatever you ask," Jon begs. Rattleshirt laughs. "Then kill the half-hand bastard." "As if he could," Corran says. "Turn, Snow, and die." And then Corran's sword was coming at him, and somehow Longclaw leapt upward to block. The force of impact almost knocked the blade from Jon's hand. He shifted to a two-hand grip, quick enough to deliver a stroke of his own. But the big ranger brushed it aside with contemptuous ease. Back and forth they went, black cloak swirling, the youth's quickness against the savage strength of Corran's left-hand cuts. The half-hand's longsword seemed to be everywhere at once, raining down from one side and then the other, driving him where he would, keeping him off balance. Already he could feel his arms growing numb. Even when Ghost's teeth closed savagely around the ranger's calf, somehow Corran kept his feet. But in that instance, as he twisted, the opening was there. Jon planted and pivoted. The ranger was leaning away, and for an instant it seemed that Jon's slash had not touched him. Then a string of red tears appeared across the big man's throat, bright as a ruby necklace, and the blood gushed out of him, and Corran half-hand fell. The light is fading in Corran's eyes. "Sharp," he says. Then he was gone. "Get him up." Rough hands drag Jon to his feet. "Do you have a name?" Ygritte answers for him. "His name is Jon Snow. He is Eddard Stark's blood, of Winterfell." Ragwile laughed. "Who would have thought it? Corran half-hand slayed by some lording's byblow." "Gut him," Rattleshirt insists. "He yielded," Ygritte reminds him. "Aye, and slew his brother," another wildling says. Rattleshirt rides closer. "The wolf did his work for him. It were foully done. The half-hand's death was mine." "We all saw how eager you were to take it," Ragwile mocks. "He is a warg," says the Lord of Bones, "and a crow. I like him not." "A warg he may be," Ygritte says, "but that has never frightened us." Others shouted agreement. Behind the eye-holes of his yellowed skull, Rattleshirt's stare was malignant, but he yielded grudgingly. These are a free folk indeed, thought Jon. Corran Halfhand's lifeless body was cremated at the very spot where he had met his demise. "Will we return by the Skirling Pass?" Jon asked Ygritte. "No," she says. "There's nothing behind us. By now Mance is well down the Milkwater, marching on your wall." So, how the hell is Corran Halfhand such an amazing swordsman that he could lose his sword hand and then train his other hand to be just as proficient? This is something not even Jaime Lannister could do, by the way. Well, this is because we believe Corran Halfhand is Oswell Went of Ares Kingsguard. We also believe Mance is Arthur Dayne and Tormund is Gerald Hightower. However, our only real evidence for this only comes later in A Dance with Dragons, but we thought we would mention this idea again here. Chapter 69. "Bran," a voice is whispering softly. "Bran, come back. Come back now. Bran. Bran." It is Mira's voice. "You were thrashing, making terrible noises. What did you see?" "Winterfell. It was Winterfell. It was all on fire. There were horse smells and steel and blood. They killed everyone, Mira." Osha approaches him. "A dream." "A wolf dream," said Bran. "I smelled it too. Nothing smells like fire or blood." "Whose blood?" "Men, horses, dogs, everyone. We have to go see." Mira squeezes Bran's hand. "I'll go if you're afraid." Osha speaks. "I'll risk a look then. I want the lot of you close behind. Mira, get Bran's basket." "Are we going home?" Rickon asks excitedly. "Yes," Bran promises, "but you have to be quiet." Osha carries her long oaken spear in one hand and the torch in the other. A naked sword hangs down her back. Their footsteps echo through the cavernous crypts. His father disappears into the engulfing shadows behind them, while the receding shadows ahead reveal a collection of statues. These are not ordinary lords, but the ancient kings in the north. Among them are Torrhen Stark, known as the King Who Knelt, Edwin the Spring King, Theon Stark, famously called the Hungry Wolf, Brandon the Burner, and Brandon the Shipwright. There are also Jorah and Jonas, Brandon the Bold, Walton the Moon King, Edarion the Bridegroom, Euron, Benjen the Sweet, and Benjen the Bitter, and lastly, King Edric Snowbeard. Bran is well acquainted with all their stories. The crypts have never instilled fear in him. They are an integral part of his identity. It has always been clear to him that one day he would rest here as well. "Hodor," says Hodor nervously. "I want to go home," Rickon says loudly. Osha emerges into the light. "Something is blocking the door. I can't move it." "Hodor can move anything," Bran says. "Might be he can. Come on then." The staircase is quite narrow, forcing them to ascend in a single line. Osha takes the lead, followed closely by Hodor, who carries Bran on his back. Mira follows behind, holding the torch, while Jojen brings up the rear, guiding Rickon by hand. Bran begins to detect a faint scent of smoke. The large stable hand presses both palms against the door and lets out a grunt. "Hodor?" "Use your back," Bran urges, "and your legs." A dull rumble emanates from above, followed by a sudden upward jerk of the door. A beam of daylight pierces through, momentarily blinding Bran. With another push, the path is now clear. Osha extends her spear through the opening and gracefully slides out, while Rickon wriggles his way through Mira's legs to join her. Hodor forcefully swings the door wide open and emerged onto the surface. The Reeds have to assist Bran in ascending the final few steps. They are standing near the remnants of the first keep. A significant portion of the structure has been torn apart and collapsed, leaving behind a chaotic scene of scattered stones and shattered gargoyles in the courtyard. The floors have burnt inside it, and all the beams. "Take me home," Rickon demands. "I want to be home." "We made enough noise to wake a dragon," Osha says, "but there's no one come. The castle's dead and burnt, just as Bran dreamed. But we had best..." She stops talking as the sound is heard coming from behind them. She swiftly turns around with her spear poised for action. Two slender, shadowy figures emerge from behind the dilapidated tower. Rickon joyfully calls out for Shaggy as the black direwolf runs towards him. Meanwhile, Summer approaches Bran more leisurely, nuzzles his head against Bran's arm, and affectionately licks his face. "We should go," Jojen says. "So much death will bring other wolves besides Summer and Shaggy Dog, and not all on 4 feet." The remainder of the morning is spent slowly circling the castle. Bran identifies Poxy Tim despite the fact that his face has been brutally attacked with an axe. "If the gods are good," Osha says angrily, "the others will take them that did this work." "It was Theon," Bran says blackly. "No, look," she points across the yard. "That's one of his Iron Men, and that's Greyjoy's warhorse, see? The black one with the arrows in him? And here's Black Lauren." His beard had been so severely hacked and cut, it now appears to be a shade of reddish-brown. Osha uses her foot to flip one of the other bodies over. There's a badge, a little man, all red. "The flayed man of the Dreadfort," Bran replies. Summer howls and darts away. The Godswood. Mira Reeds pursues the direwolf, holding her shield and frog spear. The others follow closely behind. Maester Luwin lies on the ground, covered in blood. Summer looms above him, causing Bran to initially believe he has perished. However, upon Mira's gentle touch to his throat, the Maester faintly moans. "Hodor?" Hodor says mournfully. "Hodor?" Luwin is carefully laid on his back. "Bran," he says softly. "And Rickon too," he smiles. "The gods are good. I knew." "Knew?" says Bran uncertainly. "The legs, I could tell. The clothes fit, but the muscles in his leg. Poor lad." He coughed and blood came up from inside him. "You vanished. In the woods. How though?" "We never went," Bran says. "Well, only to the edge, and then doubled back. I sent the wolves on to make a trail, but we hid in Father's tomb." "The crypts," Luwin chuckles. Tears fill Bran's eyes. We'll need to make a litter to carry him, Osha suggests. No use, Luwin says. I'm dying, woman. You can't, Rickon says angrily. The maester smiles. Hush now, child. I'm much older than you. I can die as I please. Listen, Luwin says to Osha. The princes, Robb's heirs, not together. Do you hear? Aye, safer apart. But where to take them? I'd thought might be these Cerwyn boys dead. Sir Roderick, Leopold Tolhart, Lady Hornwood, all slain. Deepwood fallen, Moat Caitlin soon, Torrens Square. Ironman on the stony shore, and east, the bastard of Bolton. Then where, Osha asks. White Harbour, the Umbers, I do not know. War everywhere, each man against his neighbour, and winter coming. Maester Luwin reaches up and grasps Bran's forearm. You must be strong now. Strong. I will be, Bran says. Good, the Maester says. A good boy. Your father's son. Bran, now go. Osha turns to Mira. Take the boys. Jojen and Mira guide Rickon while walking alongside him. Hodor trails behind. As they make their way through the dense forest, Bran's face is stung by low-hanging branches, and the leaves gently wipe away his tears. Osha eventually catches up with them in the courtyard, but she remains silent about Maester Luwin. Hodor must stay with Bran, to be his legs, the wildling woman says. I will take Rickon with me. We'll go with Bran, Jojen Reed agrees. Believe I'll try the East Gate and follow the King's Road away, Osha says. We'll take the Hunter's Gate, Mira suggests. Will we go to your Lord Father? Bran inquires while they traverse the drawbridge connecting the walls. To Greywater Watch? Mira seeks her brother's guidance for the solution. Our road is north, Jojen announces. As Bran reaches the edge of the Wolf's Wood, he glances back at the castle that has been his home. Despite the devastation caused by the attack, the ancient keeps and towers still stand tall, almost unchanged for centuries. Bran reassures himself that the castle's foundations are solid, the tree's roots are firmly planted, and the legacy of the Kings of Winter endure beneath the earth. As long as these elements persist, Winterfell would endure. It is not completely destroyed, just damaged. Bran draws a parallel between the broken castle and himself, realizing that he too is not beyond repair. Bran thinks he'll rest in the crypts of Winterfell one day, which is where the lords and kings of Winterfell reside, and this makes sense if one day he becomes king of Westeros. Now, this is super suspicious, but Maester Luwin chooses to die near the weirwood tree in this chapter. On the edge of the Black Pool, beneath the shelter of the Heart Tree, Maester Luwin lay on his belly in the dirt. A trail of blood twisted back through damp leaves where he had crawled. Not only that, but he crawled on his deathbed to reach the weirwood. But why? So, despite claiming the children of the forest are gone, maybe Maester Luwin knows that they do exist and wanted to escape death by joining the weirwood net, which is where all those who die and join the trees in like a hive mind collective. This weirwood net is what Bloodraven and eventually Bran are connected to. This might explain why Luwin schemed to send Jon to the wall, but who knows? And this is the last chapter of A Clash of Kings. Anyway, thank you for watching this far into the video, and we hope to have more chapter analysis done of A Storm of Swords for you soon. And when you get the chance, check out our Game of Thrones inspired Choose Your Own Adventure game here on YouTube by clicking the video link on the screen right now.